Chapter 1109. The head of the Sure family couldn't hold back his anger. Nancy, so what if I poached your disciple? You even poached my daughter, and you still have the cheek to criticize me? Bei Yunja's eyelids twitched. When the head of the Sure family thought of his daughter, he couldn't help but tear up. Do you think it's easy for me? I raised Yi all by myself. Originally, I just wanted to find someone worthy of her trust, but what about you? Eloping with her? Now that Yi is gone, I just want to find her a disciple to take over. How am I wrong? Hearing this, Nancy paused. He didn't expect that the head of the Sure family wanted to keep Bei Yunj to find a successor for Sure Nani. After a short silence, Nancy was a little helpless. This matter still depends on what Gur thinks. Oz glanced at Nancy coldly and said in a sarcastic tone, You taught her well. You didn't let the little girl join Confederation 191. I've been persuading her all this time, but she refused to be Miss Nani's disciple. Nancy. He didn't expect this either. After all, Bei Yunj didn't even mention it to him. He could not imagine how tempting the Confederation 191 would be to all of them. But he didn't expect that Bei Yunj would even reject the position of successor. Gur, if you want, I won't stop you. Nancy was touched and immediately said. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj glanced at him slowly and chuckled softly. No need, Master. Master, I have no choice but to take over your territory. Nancy's emotions dissipated instantly. The head of the Sure family. How did Nancy trick this girl to become his disciple back then? At this moment, Wang Hui and Wang Huiying's eyes had completely darkened. Soon one of Wang Hui's men said, Master, but our successor has always been Mr. Wang Hui. I only let him temporarily manage the 191 successor, but I never promised him that he would definitely inherit this position. These words made Wang Hui's eyes even colder. So I've worked hard for Confederation 191 for so many years, but the head of the family is not moved at all? Patriarch Sure said calmly, Wang Hui, I've said it before. I hope that this position can be inherited by a capable person. Painted Oriole is indeed capable. I can let her continue to stay in Confederate 191. However, she's not suitable for the position of successor in the future, and neither are you. These words made Wang Hui even angrier. He sneered. Good. Good. Patriarch Sure was indeed bold. But do you really think that Confederation 191 can survive without me? After Wang Hui said this specious sentence, he turned around and left angrily. Wang Huiying looked at Bei Yunj with a venomous look in her eyes. She had never expected that Bei Yunj would mess up the plan her father had set up for so many years. After the event ended, Master Sure, for Wang Hui to be able to control the operations of Confederation 191 for so many years, I'm afraid the people behind him are not to be trifled with. Us suddenly said. How could I not know? Patriarch Sure smiled and said, But I always dream of Nan-yi crying to me, saying that she doesn't want to marry Wang Hui and doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Even if something happens, I'll take responsibility for that little girl, as long as she's willing to inherit Nan-yi's position. Us didn't say anything. Outside the building, Bei Yunj was still listening to Nancy's incessant nagging about the benefits of being the successor of Confederation 191, until she caught a glimpse of someone not far away. Her eyes curved. Master, we'll talk about other things later. I'll go back first. Wait you. Before Nancy could finish speaking, he saw Bei Yunj running towards the man not far away. Although he was far away, Nancy could still vaguely see that the man was handsome. He was wearing a black and gray woolen coat, and had a noble temperament. Only Bei Yunj ran closer, and saw that the man's short black hair was stained with snow. His expression was light, but his light-colored eyes were staring straight at her. Bei Yunj's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, she only heard the man chuckle. Bei Yunj thought that her thoughts had been seen through and her tone was not very good. What are you laughing at? It's quite good. The man naturally held the little girl's hand. His magnetic and deep voice had a smile that made people blush and their hearts race. He said lazily, It seems that there are no male classmates in the training camp who are better looking than me. Bei Yunj? After not seeing him for so long, this D***MN man's first words were flirtatious? After getting into the car, Bei Yunj did not look at Huashidu. But after a while, Bei Yunj felt that something was wrong with this route. She asked, "Where are we going?" The man said unhurriedly, "Luocia's place." Bei Yunj, "You don't want to go? Just help me test a new machine, okay, Yunyin?" The man's deep voice was extremely seductive, but his hand gently pinched her palm and rubbed it gently, making her heart itch. They walked into Luocia's laboratory. Luoxia also had a sour expression on his face, but he did not expect to see Bei Yunj's expression when he looked up. This person was even better at showing expressions than him. Luoxia sneered and could not help but glance at Huashidu. How did Bei Yunj look like there was something wrong with him? "Miss Pei has been sent here by Master Du time and time again. Could there really be a problem?" Bei Yunj heard Luoxia's probing and looked up at him. But in the next moment Luoxia mocked, "If your heart is really twisted and you like to find trouble with others, this is an education problem. I can't help you." Bei Yunj sneered. Dr. Luo is still single and likes to go around acknowledging relatives and educating them. If you really have some hidden illness, why don't you go see a doctor? Instantly, Luoxia's face darkened. What did Bei Yunj mean? Did she say that he had a problem in that area? Outside the door, Zhou Yu walked to Huashidu's side and reported about Confederation 191. Huashidu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Shi Hongsen to be willing to pass his position to Bei Yunj. Zhou Yu glanced at Huashidu and said, "Master Du, this Wang Hui is also valuable to us." After all, Wang Hui was also a chess piece that Huashidu had set up in Confederation 191. Therefore, when Wang Hui contacted Zhou Yu through someone and hoped that Zhou Yu could help him, Zhou Yu hesitated. "Zhou Yu, you've gone overboard." The man's voice was indifferent, but there was no warmth. Zhou Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. However, when he saw Huashidu's indifferent gaze, Zhou Yu felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over him. Zhou Yu quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake. "Yes." Huashidu only glanced at him casually. Not long after, the corners of his lips suddenly curled up. He reached out and picked up the red scarf that Bei Yunj had placed at the side. He said casually, "Clean up the people from Confederation 191. Don't cause trouble for my girl." Zhou Yu. "Yes." However. Chapter 11:10. Mr. Wang, will that person help us? Wang Hui's men started to feel uneasy. Hearing this, Wang Hui gritted his teeth and sneered. "Definitely. But even if he doesn't, I have a way to let that little girl know what's good for her." Had he spent so many years in Confederation 191 for nothing? Shi Hongsen was really ridiculous. He actually thought that a little girl could replace his position? In the laboratory. "Boss, this girl looks very normal. Is there really a problem?" The experimenter in the observation room asked softly. Luoxia sneered. "Is there a problem? Master Du treats her like a treasure. What problem can there be?" If there was a problem with Bei Yunj, it was because Huashidu had spoiled her. Luoxia didn't care. But in the next moment, Luoxia suddenly heard a loud noise in the laboratory. When he reacted, his eyelids twitched and he immediately ran over to Bei Yunj. But he saw Bei Yunj standing by the side with a normal expression. He didn't notice the coldness in Bei Yunj's eyes that had not completely disappeared. And there was a crack on the surface of the latest machine he bought. Luoxia's expression also cracked. "I'm sorry, Dr. Luo. I accidentally bumped into it." Bei Yunj's voice sounded unhurriedly. Luoxia even had the thought of strangling Bei Yunj to death. Did she know how much money he had spent to buy this machine? Luoxia's expression kept changing. The observer beside him immediately whispered to Bei Yunj, "Miss Pei, come out quickly. Boss's heart is aching." Bei Yunj was speechless. Not long after, Bei Yunj left with the observer. She asked casually, "Is this machine very expensive?" "It's not too expensive. Boss only got this machine because he asked for favors." Also, the observer looked around and immediately said to her sneakily, "My boss bought this machine specially for the goddess." Goddess. Bei Yunj's first thought was Lai Yunqing. "Yes. She's the one who nominated the Busaka. Our boss has been single for so many years just to have a vigorous relationship with her," the researcher said excitedly. Bei Yunj felt a chill run down her spine. The next moment, the man's voice sounded indifferently. Yin Yun. Inexplicably, Bei Yunj seemed to sense the coldness in the man's voice. But when she came back to her senses, Bei Yunj felt that she was overthinking. Brother. Bei Yunj walked up to the man. However, before Huashidu could speak, Luoxia walked over quickly, and even asked his laboratory staff to leave the hall. Luoxia looked at Bei Yunj silently and his attitude changed. Miss Pei, I hope you can accept my face-to-face examination. Luoxia couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj when he thought of the data he had just seen on the machine. Initially, Luoxia had thought that Huashidu was making a fuss over nothing. What could have happened to Bei Yunj? But now he realized that Huashida's motive for returning to Continent K was very likely to be for Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at Luoxia expressionlessly, but she kept suppressing the dark thoughts in her heart. The atmosphere suddenly turned silent. Huashidu lowered his eyes and looked at her. After a while, Bei Yunj heard the man suddenly speak. Forget it if you don't want to see it. Luoxia instinctively looked up at him. Master Du. Luoxia was getting more and more confused by Huashida's thoughts. End of chapter. Chapter 11:11. Luoxia, continue with your work. With that said, Huashidu left with Bei Yunj. However, in the car, Huashidu received a message from Luoxia and the data recorded by the machine. Luoxia suggested that he bring her to his laboratory again to investigate the cause of Bei Yunj's illness. Huashida's eyes were dark. Not long after, he put his phone back into his pocket. In the blink of an eye, Huashidu saw Bei Yunj looking at him. The machine just now affected brain activity through brainwaves. Bei Yunj's emotions were more or less affected. For a moment, she could not get rid of the dark thoughts in her mind. Bei Yunj had just calmed down and was still thinking about how to speak to Huashidu. However, she did not expect to hear the man's deep and magnetic voice. We're returning to Yunqing in 2 days. Bei Yunj's long eyelashes fluttered slightly, and she quickly licked her red lips. After a while, she asked, Aren't you going to continue the examination? With that said, Bei Yunj did not hear Huashida speak and looked up instinctively. However, she did not expect the man to stare straight at her. The corners of his upturned eyes were charming, and he chuckled in a low voice. It was as if he was making a serious promise to her. He said slowly, Bei Yunj, we still have a long time in the future. Bei Yunj's heart thumped unnaturally, and she looked away hurriedly. However, the man's lips curled up. Back at the manor, Bei Yunj watched as Zhou Yu and Sing Su watered the flowers not far away and called Nance. Other than Luoxia, do I have any other choice? Nance did not expect Bei Yunj to take the initiative to talk to him about this one day. He snorted. You still know that I'm your master. I thought you were going to look for Zhong Xinglin again. Nance quickly got to the point. Yunj, Luoxia is your most suitable choice now. Bei Yunj was speechless. Now, Bei Yunj's scalp turned numb at the thought of what the experimenter had said about a romantic relationship between an older woman and a younger man. Change it. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. Besides, I don't want anyone to know about it for the time being. Do you not want others to know, or do you not want your brother to know? Nancy smiled. Bei Yunj. Other than Huashidu, there was no one else who said that. Nance knew that Huashida's identity was not simple. He had also heard Zhong Xinglin mention Huashida before. Although he didn't know much about this young man, there was one thing he was sure of. Perhaps even Bei Yunj herself didn't know what this man thought of her. Thinking of this, Nancy could not help but ask, Gur, why can't you figure out such a simple question? After a while, only then did Nancy hear her clear and melodious voice ring out. Master, it's not like I can figure out everything. Nancy was stunned. After he came back to his senses, he remembered that Bei Yunj was only 19 or 20 years old. However, the more he interacted with Bei Yunj, the higher his expectations for her. It was easy for people to fall into a fallacy with such a genius. She had to be more knowledgeable than everyone else. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's voice interrupted his thoughts. She smiled lazily. Master, I can inherit Madam's Confederation 191. But there's a score that I haven't settled yet. What score? Confederation 191. No one understood why a group of people would suddenly appear. When they saw Wang Hui, they suddenly attacked him and beat him up until he couldn't even get up. Half a day later, Wang Huiying had just rushed to the hospital when she didn't expect to be slapped by Wang Hui out of nowhere. P.S. There are 2 more updates. If nothing goes wrong, there should be a mini update soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 11-12. Seeing this scene, a woman who looked similar to Wang Huiying hurriedly supported Wang Huiying. Why did you hit your child? Your daughter came to the hospital to see you out of kindness. Shiruzhen's heart ached. You should ask her. She can't even compete with Bei Yunj. Isn't it embarrassing? Wang Hui's long-suppressed anger finally exploded. He pointed at Wang Huiying and scolded her. Wang Huiying covered her face with her hands. Her hair covered half of her face. After a long time, she said gloomily, "Those people today must be Bei Yunj's men." Wang Hui's face darkened. He thought about how he was beaten up in Confederation 191, and his tone became even worse. How did you know? I asked the Tang family to teach the illegitimate son of the Tang family a lesson. He's her teammate. Wang Huiying's hatred for Bei Yunj grew stronger. Bei Yunj was really arrogant. She actually hit her father. Wang Huiying, you. Wang Hui's eyes darkened. He sneered angrily. I didn't expect you to become so useless after so many years. Wang Huiying was his most successful genetic experiment subject. How could she be defeated by an ordinary person? Wang Huiying seemed to have been provoked. Her voice was sharp and she sneered. Useless? Father, don't forget that if it weren't for me, grandfather wouldn't have considered letting you inherit the laboratory. But Wang Hui was even more furious when he heard this. How dare you talk back to me? Shiruzhen immediately protected her daughter. Huiying didn't mean to provoke you. Don't treat your daughter like this. I treat her like this? How much effort did I put in to nurture her? Look at the result. She can't even compete with a wild girl who came out of nowhere. Now Shi Hongxin wants to pass his position to a wild girl. Wang Huiying's expression became even more twisted when she heard this. Brother Hui, I have a solution. Shiruzhen said immediately. Wang Hui frowned. What solution? Old Mr. Dongxi. Shiruzhen looked at Wang Huiying's red and swollen face, and a trace of heartache flashed across her eyes. Soon she said, Elder Dong is father's teacher and the person with the most authority in Confederation 191. Father has always respected him. Therefore, as long as Elder Dong opposes father, there is still room for negotiation. Shiruzhen continued. Elder Dong hasn't asked about anything in the laboratory in the past few years, but he has always favored Huiying. After listening, Wang Hui's complexion finally returned to normal, but Wang Huiying's gaze was malicious. This time, she would not let Bei Yunj off the hook. The college entrance examination was approaching and Bei Yunj had been receiving news from Qin Lian, and the other two. He was even pulled into a group chat, and the 3 of them took turns sharing the poisonous chicken soup that they had gotten from God knows where. Little clever trick that exploded in the college entrance examination circle. Her parents actually raised her to be the city's top scorer. Tens of thousands of parents who took the college entrance examination express regret that they did not buy these for their children. You're only 3 minutes away from the college entrance examination dark horse. In fact, Bei Yunj even saw by chance that Qin Yu had retracted an article. Parents did all this to raise the confidence of children with poor results for the college entrance examination. The corners of Bei Yunj's lips twitched. Then he left the group chat expressionlessly. Suddenly, what's going on? I heard that you rubbed Wang Huiying. Chapter 11-13. Bei Yunj threw her phone on the table and said casually, Do you have a problem with that? Si Qingyan was speechless. It had been a few months since they last met, but this person's temper had not decreased. No problem. However, I've long heard that Wang Huiying used you as a stepping stone back then. Everyone said that only she could surpass you. Si Qingyan raised an eyebrow, gloating indescribably. Wang Huiying probably wouldn't have thought that she was the one being hammered. Did you come to Continent K just to gossip? Bei Yunj asked slowly. What nonsense are you talking about? It's all because old Master Zhong couldn't bear to use his ultimate move and let you compete with Lai Yinqing, so he called me here. Bei Yunj asked excitedly, you won? Si Qingyan did not deny it. Of course. After all, Si Qingyan had become a professor at Yunqing University at such a young age. Of course his talent was not bad. Besides, with Bei Yunj giving him endless pressure, Si Qingyan had not dared to rest for the past year. After dinner, Bei Yunj and Si Qingyan had just gone downstairs when they unexpectedly encountered a robbery in the mall. The sound of a gunshot caused a commotion on the field. Continent K was not like Country A. Even the well-guarded wealthy district would occasionally have bandits enter. Not to mention the chaotic city. Si Qingyan almost cursed. He had just won the competition and wanted to walk around Continent K, but he did not expect to encounter such a thing on the same day. Those who don't want to die, squat down. The man with the weapon was still holding a boy. With that said, the citizens who had yet to escape did not dare to move. Even though such things often happened in this city, no one could avoid the fear of death. Yunj, let's go upstairs first. Si Qingyan was about to bring Bei Yunj upstairs and call the police, but in the next second, Bei Yunj walked downstairs. Yunj! Before Si Qingyan could pull her back, Bei Yunj's eyes swept over the three people with guns. Do you want a hostage? What do you think of me? Bei Yunj's words angered the criminal gang. Do you have a death wish? Bei Yunj slowly took off her watch and threw it accurately to the side of the clear pool. She raised an eyebrow and was indescribably arrogant. Sir, that watch is worth the value of everyone here. Si Qingyan was speechless. The crowd. Is this the time for you to show off your wealth? True enough. When the man with the gun saw the watch that was worth nearly 100 million yuan, he could not hide his greed. He immediately asked Bei Yunj to go and exchange the hostage. Si Qingyan said, Bei Yunj, you. Hurry up and call the police. Bei Yunj left after saying that. But in the next moment, the man with the spear didn't let the little boy go. Instead, he suddenly picked up a dagger and stabbed Bei Yunj's snow-white neck. Another idiot who isn't afraid of death. He sneered disdainfully. A rich man who came out of the ivory tower is really idealistic. Bei Yunj slowly glanced at the exquisitely dressed little boy, and roughly knew why the criminal was unwilling to let him go. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before he said slowly, Are you really not letting him go? Cut the crap. Get your parents to. Before the criminal could finish speaking, a painful howl attracted everyone's attention. No one thought that an exquisite and beautiful little girl could do such a thing. Then, the two accomplices of the criminal quickly aimed their weapons at Bei Yunj. End of chapter. Chapter 11:14. What was faster than the two criminals was the gun that Bei Yunj had just snatched. The two criminals' hands were covered in blood. Their faces were twisted in pain, but they did not have the time to pick up the gun. Try picking one up. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's half-smiling voice landed in their ears. It was very frivolous. Let's see if I'm accurate at shooting. As soon as she finished speaking, not only the criminals, but everyone else also felt a chill run down their spines. No one dared to pick it up. After all, this girl could shoot through their hands from such a long distance. A shadow of fear covered their hearts, and the burning pain in their hands was unbearable. It was obvious that this girl had practiced before. The next moment, the guns beside the two of them were kicked away. Si Qingyan had just finished the call when he saw that Bei Yunj had already kidnapped the criminals. A few minutes later, Si Qingyan understood why Bei Yunj asked him to call the police. She just wanted to find someone to deal with the aftermath. It was not only Si Qingyan. The police car that came also felt a chill run down Bei Yunj's spine. Miss, from such a long distance, have you practiced before? He had been a police officer for 3 seconds, but he did not have such accurate marksmanship. I played for 2 years. After Bei Yunj finished speaking slowly, Si Qingyan's scalp went numb. Did this person have 100 hours a day? It was fine if she knew computer science, mathematics, and physics, but she had even played with such bloody things. There's also a little boy inside. He must have been kidnapped. After Bei Yunj reminded him, Si Qingyan pulled her away and reprimanded her, saying that she was not afraid of losing her life. After listening for a long time, Bei Yunj finally realized that the watch Qin Luyan had given her was still in the pool. However, when Bei Yunj went to pick it up, the watch was already gone. In this world, people are not what they used to be. Si Qingyan gloated as he felt pity. These people are really worse than you. You saved them, but someone stole your watch in the chaos. Bei Yunj. Now that things had come to this, he could only buy another one that was exactly the same. With this plan in mind, Bei Yunj returned home. However, the next day, she heard Si Qingyan say faintly that there was no second watch that was identical to the one she was wearing. Qin Luyan had bought this watch because it was unique. A few days later, Bei Yunj was visited. Master Shi. Yunj, there's a banquet in 2 days. Bei Yunj sounded a little frustrated. I'm not free. For the past few days, she had been looking for help to see if she could contact someone to make a high-quality imitation watch. Patriarch Shi and Nancy looked at each other. Soon Nancy whispered, "Dear disciple, this banquet is being held by the Bai family. You have to go." Nancy heaved a sigh of relief, gritted his teeth and said, "If you go, the ceremony of the successor of the Confederation can be postponed for half a year." "All right." Bei Yunj quickly agreed. But Nancy was about to get into a fight with Patriarch Shi. The Bai family. Bei Yunj was still on the phone with Song Yao. To be precise, Bei Yunj was reprimanding Song Yao unilaterally. As the college entrance examination approached, Song Yao actually took on a script at the last minute. Although Song Yao heard that Bei Yunj was laughing, she did not doubt that if Bei Yunj was in Yuncheng, she would probably come to mess with the production team. Before she hung up, Bei Yunj heard a discussion not far away. "Akel, I really didn't expect you to save little young master. I heard that those people all had guns. And the old madam, I heard that she almost knelt down for you on the spot." The voices on Song Yao's side were too noisy, but Bei Yunj could hear everything clearly. End of chapter. Chapter 11:15. The girl who answered just smiled and said, "I just happened to bump into him." With that said, Tong Li quickly changed the topic and walked to a corner. No one paid attention to the girl's conversation. Suddenly someone asked, "But Akel, why do you have such an expensive watch?" Tong Li's smile froze, and a hint of panic flashed across her eyes. However, she quickly said softly, "It's my mother's." Hearing this, the others tactfully shut up. If they had known earlier, the fact that Tong Li was chased out of the Tong family was not a secret in the circle. However, they did not expect that the head of the Tong family would like his lover so much that he would even give her a 9-figure watch. No one noticed that Tong Li could not help but cover the watch on her wrist with her shawl. At the same time, she also covered her trembling hand. 2 days ago, when she was taken away by the Bai family, she panicked and thought that the owner of the watch had come looking for her. However, she did not expect that it was the young master of the Bai family, who came looking for their benefactor. Tong Li felt even more depressed. If the young master was not blind, she might have been criticized by everyone for taking that watch in the chaos. She would not be standing here and being treated as a noble by Madame Bai. Thinking of this, Tong Li could not help but look sarcastic. Some people were born with good luck, and could even throw away a watch worth nearly 100 million. However, she was chased out of the family with her seriously ill mother when she became an adult. Now, she had to rely on others' kindness to gain their attention. "Akel, congratulations." Tong Li turned around, and saw that Wang Huiying had come to greet her. She was a little flattered. Huiying. However, on second thought, the Bai family's status in Continent K was comparable to the Confederation 191. It was only right that Wang Huiying came to greet her. "I just came from Elder Dong's place and brought you good news. Elder Dong has agreed to accept you as his disciple." After Wang Huiying finished speaking, Tong Li was overjoyed. Really? It was difficult to walk in the scientific research circle in Continent K without connections. Tong Li never dreamed that Elder Dong would be willing to accept her as his disciple. "Of course it's true. Akel, you're not bad." Wang Huiying smiled. She was not wrong, but Wang Huiying knew that there was another reason. Even Elder Dong wanted to give the Bai family face. Many people had heard the news that the Bai family wanted to adopt Tong Ying as their daughter. Clearly, Tong Xie was going to have a meteoric rise. A dark look flashed across Wang Huiying's eyes. She smiled and said, "If that's the case, it won't be a problem to enter Confederation 191. His words made Tong Yi unable to calm down. However, it was the first time Tong Yi was surrounded by so many people. He couldn't help but smile. Compared to Huiying, I'm just an ordinary person. Wang Huiying's gloomy mood in the past few days was completely relieved because of Tong Ying's words. Unfortunately, from the corner of her eye, Wang Huiying saw Pei Yunj, who was staring at someone. A trace of mockery flashed across her eyes. She didn't even need to think to know that Master Shi was the one who sent him here. Thinking of this, she immediately walked over. Miss Pei is alone. Don't you want to make some friends? When Wang Huiying saw that Pei Yunj was being ignored, she couldn't help but poke at her. Who knew? Pei Yunj hung up after saying something to the person on the phone. He turned around and sneered. Miss Wang, you're quite worried. Why don't you let Mr. Wang stay in the hospital and make some more friends? Wang Huiying's face turned ashen. She didn't expect Pei Yunj to dare to mention it. When Tong Li saw Pei Yunj, she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. End of chapter. Chapter 11-16. At that time, Pei Yunj was dressed so tightly that Tong Hua did not recognize her. Pei Yunj, you have to know that you don't have the right to attend this banquet. Wang Huiying gritted her teeth and sneered. This was the first time Wang Huiying had openly challenged someone. Many people were surprised. However, most of them were just here to watch the show. Offending Wang Huiying would not end well in Continent K. Sure enough, the butler came over because of the commotion. What's going on, Miss Wang? The butler asked hurriedly. Does the Bai family invite just anyone? I feel like I'm lowering my status. Wang Huiying's tone was cold. The steward looked troubled. Today's banquet is specially organized for the young master and Miss Tong. All the guests invited are important guests. At this moment, Tong Hua's eyes darkened. She looked at Pei Yunj and knew that her chance had come. The socialites in Continent K were also xenophobic. In the past, she was the one who was treated as an outsider. However, the most pitiful person was someone else now. However, Tong Hua did not sympathize with Pei Yunj. She only felt that Pei Yunj had asked for it since she dared to go against Wang Huiying. Huiying is my friend. Miss, since you're alone, why don't you sit at the back? Tong Hua said calmly. The butler hesitated when he heard this. He remembered that although this young lady had come alone, the invitation she received had arranged for her to have a first-class seat. It's not considered rude. The people at this table are all people like Elder Dong and Master Shi. Tong Hua's tone was gentle. She even smiled at Pei Yunj and asked, Miss Pei, you should understand, right? As soon as she finished speaking, Pei Yunj's gaze slowly swept over her. Tong Hua clenched her fists unconsciously. She felt an inexplicable pressure. However, the next moment. He only heard Pei Yunj scoff softly, but she did not say a word. Obviously, she did not take them seriously. Tong Hua's smile froze for a moment. Suddenly, someone congratulated them from not far away. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Madame Bai. Aku, are you still adapting here? Madame Bai looked at Tong Yi with a gentle gaze. She took her hand and attracted the envy of many people. Tong Li saved the young master of the Bai family. It was worth it to exchange for such treatment. Thank you, madam. I'm fine here. Tong Yi's lips curled up as well. She was grateful to Madame Bai for helping her out of her predicament. If the Bai family hadn't paid for her mother's treatment, she might have stolen the watch and sold it to the black market. You don't have to be so polite with me. Actually, I also hope that I can have a daughter. Madame Bai's hint made Tong Yi's eyes light up. However, in the next moment, Madame Bai asked, What were you talking about? Tong Yi immediately said stiffly, Nothing important. We were just chatting. When Madame Bai heard this, she didn't pay much attention to it. However, when he glanced at Pei Yunj, who was not far away, a trace of amazement flashed through his eyes. Since when did Continent K have such a stunning beauty? Madame Bai was in a daze. Wang Huiying and Tong Yi's expressions changed slightly. But in his heart, he knew very well that even if that person didn't speak, it was still very difficult to ignore him. Madam Bai, long time no see. The familiar voice surprised Wang Huiying. She turned to look at Elder Dong, who was walking over. Elder Dong, it's my honor that you're willing to come. Madam Bai immediately greeted him with a smile. Great-grandfather Dong, you're finally here. Wang Huiying held Elder Dong's hand and said coquettishly, if I don't come, who's going to stand up for you? Elder Dong's words puzzled everyone. Stand up for what? Chapter 11:17. At this moment, Madam Bai's smile faded. She quickly took Tong Li's hand and went up the stage. She chuckled and said, today's banquet was specially held for Ah Wu. The audience applauded. Elder Dong raised his eyebrows but didn't say anything. Tong Li blushed. Thank you, Madam Bai. What's there to thank me for? If it weren't for you, Ning wouldn't have been so lucky to come back safely. Madam Bai patted Tong Li's hand and smiled. I heard from the director that there weren't any casualties because you fought back against the robbers. As soon as she finished speaking, Bai Yunja's eyes darkened as she looked at Tong Li on the stage. Suddenly, you're Bai Yunj, aren't you? A solemn voice sounded in an unfriendly tone. Bai Yunj glanced at Elder Dong and nodded indifferently, but her attitude angered Elder Dong. Elder Dong sneered. You're indeed Nancy's disciple. You're just as frivolous and ignorant. Nancy didn't take over Confederation 191 back then. Now it's his disciple's turn? Do you really think you can sit in that position? If I can't, why are you so anxious? Bai Yunja's words made Elder Dong's face turn ashen. Ridiculous. No matter what, the successor of Confederation 191 must be of good character. Does Miss Pei think she's qualified? Bai Yunja's temper wasn't good to begin with. The next moment, Bai Yunja's slow tone was indeed infuriating. She sneered. Why, Elder Dong, do you think you can cremate a few relics after you pass away 100 years ago? As soon as she finished speaking, almost the entire place fell silent. These words were so ruthless that it made people tremble in fear. Bastard. Elder Dong was so angry that his whole body trembled. He slammed the table and stood up, unable to control his anger. The surrounding people were scared out of their wits. Wang Huiying's eyes were filled with sarcasm and coldness. Bai Yunj actually dared to offend Elder Dong. Wasn't she courting death? But then, Madam Bai walked over. What's going on? Madam Bai subconsciously looked at Bai Yunj. She actually had a good impression of this young lady. Madam Bai, Grandpa Dong didn't mean to ruin your banquet. Wang Huiying pretended to be helpless. At this moment, Tong Yi suddenly said, no wonder Miss Wang. I wanted Miss Pei to change to another table, but I didn't expect Miss Pei to be so stubborn. Her hesitant look made the others look at Bai Yunj differently. They simply thought that Bai Yunj was trying to climb up the social ladder, or deliberately stirring up trouble in the Bai family. Many people were rejoicing in his misfortune, planning to watch the show. They wanted to see how this troublemaker would be chased out of the Bai family. Unexpectedly, Madam Bai only chuckled and asked, Miss Pei, you're not from Continent K, are you? I'm from Country A. After Bai Yunj finished speaking, Madam Bai's eyes lit up. Yinqing? Yes. Are all the girls in Cloud City so beautiful now? Madam Bai's teasing made Tong Yi and Wang Huiying's faces stiffen. When Elder Dong frowned, Madam Bai said, Elder Dong, today is the Bai family's banquet. I hope you can give us some face. Since Madam Bai had said so, Elder Dong couldn't say anything no matter how bad his expression was. On the other hand, Tong Yi pursed her lips, feeling gloomy. Madam Bai had never been easy to talk to. Even she was close to Madam Bai because she saved young Master Bai. But what right did Bai Yunj have? Tong Yi immediately said, Miss Pei, aren't you going to apologize to Elder Dong? Chapter 11:18. No one said a word. After all, they had never heard of this excessively beautiful girl being the young miss of any prestigious family. Who would be so bored as to provoke Elder Dong and the Bai family's benefactor for a girl? All of a sudden, Bai Yunj laughed and raised her beautiful eyes. She said calmly, Miss Tong, since you're so concerned about others, when are you going to return my watch? Hearing this, everyone else was confused. They didn't understand what was going on between Bai Yunj and Tong Hua. When Tong Wu heard this, she looked up abruptly. Her body stiffened, and a chill ran down her spine. No wonder she found Bei Yunji's voice so familiar. She was the girl in the mall. Tong Hua's eyes were filled with fear and uneasiness. Her face turned even paler. "Miss Pei, what do you mean?" She didn't want to claim credit for taking Bei Yunji's watch. She just wanted to sell it on the black market to save money for her mother's treatment. She didn't expect the Bai family to treat her as their savior. Bei Yunji's eyes were cold. She suddenly laughed. "Miss Tong, do you really think it's so easy to take my watch?" Tong Hua instinctively covered the watch in her hand. She was nervous and scared, but her tone was cold. "Miss Pei, don't talk nonsense." It was also Bei Yunji's first time meeting such a woman who did such a stupid thing without hesitation. When Tong Wu saw that Bei Yunji didn't say anything, she thought that Bei Yunji didn't dare to offend her. She was even more determined not to admit it. She didn't hate Bei Yunji at all. Why did Bei Yunji get all the good things? How could she have such an expensive watch and still win the praise of others? It was so unfair. "Miss Pei, you have to have evidence." Tong Hua took a deep breath and raised her chin at Bei Yunji. She smiled and said, "Although I don't know who Miss Pei is, I don't think you can offend me." The atmosphere was tense. Everyone was thinking, "It's over." Tong Hua was now the most popular person in the Bai family. How could Bei Yunji be so stupid as to offend the Bai family? However, Madame Bai hesitated when she saw the watch in Tong Ye's hand. She didn't know why, although she didn't dislike children. However, she had a feeling that Tong Yi was not the kind of person who could steal a gun from a robber. Suddenly, just when everyone was silent, a soft and tender voice sounded. "Mom!" Everyone turned around and heard the old butler anxiously chasing after the little boy. "Little young master, you've gone the wrong way. Please slow down." The little boy seemed to have just woken up. His eyes were red, and there was fear in his lifeless eyes. He ran towards Madame Bai with his baby fat arms. However, the little boy did not notice that there was someone standing in front of Madame Bai. He hugged her just like that. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows subconsciously and supported the little boy who almost fell. Soon, when the little boy realized that he seemed to have hugged the wrong person, Bei Yunji slowly squatted down. "Kid, I'm not your parent." Seeing this, everyone's eyes widened. One had to know that the young master of the Bai family hated the touch of strangers. They really didn't expect that someone would be able to step on a mine in such a frenzy. Was this bad luck, or did she like to court death? However, the next moment, everyone's jaws dropped. Ning's short little hands directly hugged Bei Yunji's neck and refused to let go. She looked so fragile that it made everyone's heart ache. "Sister, I'm scared." Chapter 11:19. The little boy rarely spoke, so his voice sounded sticky and a little twisted. She couldn't quite hear what he was saying. But Bei Yunji understood. Bei Yunji's neck was suddenly hugged and she bent over, unable to get up. She was surprised that this child could recognize her. However, Tong Hua's expression was as ugly as it could be, but before she could panic, Wang Huiying laughed and mocked her. "Bei Yunji, Ning can't see anything. Aren't you too shameless to pretend to be a human?" Tong Hua forced herself to calm down when she heard this. Her eyes turned cold, but she smiled and said, "Miss Pei, are you here to cause trouble?" At this moment, everyone looked like they had suddenly realized something. How could there be such a bad and stupid person who purposely came to provoke others? Everyone looked at Bei Yunji with disgust. However, Madame Bai didn't say anything and looked at Bei Yunji thoughtfully. Hence Elder Dong, who had noticed this, sneered. "I don't need to tell you how much Ning's watch was sold for, right? Little girl, even if you want to lie, you have to know the truth first. Then, you have to see if you're worthy. Do you know what kind of family the Tong family is?" Indeed, it was also because of this that everyone was convinced. The Tong family was one of the top 5 families in Continent K, so it was reasonable for Tong Hua to buy this watch. But Bei Yunji? She didn't have any accessories on her body, and she didn't even wear an exquisite gown like the others. She only wore a simple white cotton shirt. She was simply an eye-catching anomaly at this banquet. Suddenly, a voice interrupted Bei Yunji's thoughts. "What lie?" Everyone turned around and saw a man in a wheelchair. Even though he was in a wheelchair, it was still difficult to ignore his handsome and indifferent eyes. His figure was thin but slender. It's President Shang. Everyone was shocked at first, then they were in disbelief. President Shang actually came to Continent K? Even though the man was in a wheelchair, many women were still attracted to him. Bei Yunj also raised his eyebrows. He didn't know when Shang Yan had arrived in Continent K. Elder Dong had also heard of Shang Yan, and didn't dare offend him. CEO Shang. I'm sorry for letting you see such a dirty thing. Dirty business. Shang Yan smiled, but his eyes were clear and pitch black. It was easy to be stunned. Nye Yu also sensed that Shang Yan was angry. That's right, President Shang. Madame Bai is holding a banquet for Miss Tong today, but this woman actually said that the watch that Miss Tong lost when she was saving someone was hers. Immediately, someone took the opportunity to strike up a conversation with Shang Yan, mocking Bei Yunj. But he didn't expect that. Shang Yan only laughed ambiguously. The next moment, Shang Yan's wheelchair slowly moved towards Tong Yi. Tong Yi looked at the man in front of her. Even though she knew that this man couldn't walk, she couldn't help but feel touched. Her face blushed. With such attractiveness, it wasn't difficult to tell how attractive Shang Yan was before the accident. However, the man's next words made everyone's jaws drop. It's true that she doesn't know what kind of family the Tong family is. After all, she doesn't like to interfere in the company's matters. The man's slow words made everyone freeze. However, just as Tong Ye's face turned pale, the man said unhurriedly, "But since when can the heir of Higgins Corporation be found trouble?" With that said, the atmosphere suddenly fell silent before it boiled over. Everyone gasped. The heir of Higgins Corporation? Chapter 11:20. Tong Ye's face paled. But in the next second. However, Shang Yan reached out his slender and good-looking hand, and took off the watch on her wrist. His tone was still gentle, but he was gently wiping the watch with the black-gray checkered man's handkerchief. Be it this watch or anything else, Miss Tong should know that there will be a price to pay if you take it by force. In an instant, the blood drained from Tong Pei's face, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Miss Tong, was it you or Miss Pei who saved Ning back then? At this moment, Mrs. Bai suddenly spoke and looked at Tong Yi sharply. Tong Ye's face paled and she hesitated. At this moment, Shang Yan had already handed the watch back to Bei Yunj and said calmly in a gentle voice, "Elder young miss, if you have the time to throw a watch worth hundreds of millions, why don't you have the time to return to the corporation to take a look?" Pei Chi-Chi, who was being reprimanded, was speechless. She did not throw it casually. It was because she knew that this watch was waterproof that Bei Yunj threw it into the pool near the robbers, so that it would not be damaged. "Miss Pei, were you the one who saved Ning back then?" Mrs. Bai was a little incoherent with excitement. The rest of the people were in disbelief. A dignified heir of Higgins Corporation would actually take such a risk to save someone. "I just happened to be here. I was having dinner with a friend." Bei Yunj had never liked to be particular about the ways of the world, so there was no fluctuation in her tone. However, Shang Yan's voice continued. "To Yunj, this is not a big deal. Mrs. Bai, you don't have to take it to heart. Today's banquet was specially invited by the head of the Shi family. He hopes that Yunj can stay in Union 191. Hearing this, the rest of the people were still confused. However, Mrs. Bai immediately understood what Shang Yan meant. Mrs. Bai smiled. "Perhaps to Miss Pei, it's not a big deal, but to me, it's a favor that I can't repay in my lifetime." She then looked at Bei Yunj and her tone became even more serious. "If Miss Pei needs any help in the future, the Bai family will definitely cooperate fully." With that said, Tong Ye's face was pale and she did not dare to face the current situation. She was afraid to see those disdainful and mocking gazes. However, in this circle, everyone kicked a man who was down. "No way. What era is this? Why is she still playing such shameless tricks? Tisk, serves him right for being chased out by the Tong clan. Now that you mention it, I think I know why the Tong family chased this pair of mother and daughter out." Everyone's words pierced Tong Ye's heart. She raised her head abruptly, and as expected, she was faced with a bunch of mocking faces. Even those who had just flattered her now had looks of anger or disgust on their faces. Tong Yi subconsciously looked at Elder Dong. However, Elder Dong's face was dark and gloomy. He glanced at her coldly, and then left. Elder Dong's attitude clearly meant that she would never have the chance to become Elder Dong's student again. Her face immediately turned red and green, and she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. In just one night, she fell from the clouds to the mud, and was stepped on by everyone. Madam Bai, you have to believe me. I didn't lie to you on purpose. Tong Wu stood in front of Madam Bai. Tears fell from her eyes. Her innocent face made people feel sorry for her. However, Madam Bai was a person with powerful means. How could she not see through this young girl? Miss Tong, are you asking us to chase away our benefactor just now? Madam Bai asked calmly. Chapter 11:21. Tong Wu was speechless. Do you want our Bai family to go back on our word and be used by you? Madam Bai's gaze was sharp, causing Tong Wu to freeze and not dare to look into her eyes. Madam Bai, I didn't. Tong Wu bit her lip tightly. Madam Bai took a deep breath and said in a cold tone, I can let this matter slide. But in the future, I don't want to see Miss Tong appear in front of me again. Tong Wu felt embarrassed and did not dare to face the gazes of others. She clenched her fists. Thank you, Madam Bai. Before leaving, Tong Wu also saw Bei Yunj chatting with Shang Yin not far away. There was an indescribable dark glint in her eyes, twisted and jealous. Why are you here? Bei Yunj glanced at Shang Yin. Nance knows that things can easily happen at banquets, so he asked me to come. Shang Yin said slowly. Besides, you didn't like any of the doctors I picked for you. With that said, Bei Yunj felt Shang Yan's gaze on her. Cui Hingchuan seems to have left Yincheng. This matter is not urgent. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, he heard the noise around him and did not have the patience to stay here any longer. He looked at him politely and asked, President Shang, shall we continue with the rest of the process? Shang Yin was speechless. Outside the door. If you can't choose within 2 months, I'll send everyone to you. Shang Yin sent Bei Yunj to the door, feeling at ease with his threat. Bei Yunj was speechless. Shang Yin had arranged at least 30 to 40 psychiatrists for her. Soon, Shang Yin saw someone from the corner of his eye and looked down. He said calmly, Someone is here to pick you up. Hearing this, Bei Yunj immediately knew who it was. She instinctively turned her head and saw the window by the driver's seat slowly roll down, revealing the man's handsome and noble side profile. Her lips curled up unconsciously. Shang Yin also noticed that Bei Yunj's gaze never left the man. His eyes darkened as he watched Bei Yunj greet him before heading towards Huashidu. Only Niayu could clearly sense the faint loneliness in Shang Yan's figure. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Originally, Niayu was indescribably happy that Shang Yan had pulled himself together. But looking at it now, Niayu felt that Shang Yan was going to fall even deeper this time. Why did it have to be Miss Pei? In the car, Bei Yunj leaned back lazily and peeked at the man's carefree appearance from the rearview mirror. Shang Yan. Huashidu still had an impression of Shang Yan. Bei Yunj also raised her eyebrows. You remember? Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at her indifferently. Obviously, this little girl didn't know how much she could attract bees and butterflies. Actually, the first time he saw Shang Yan, Huashidu had sensed that the way Shang Yan looked at Bei Yunj was different. However, Shang Yan didn't seem to plan on letting Bei Yunj know about his thoughts. Her behavior was well behaved, but she was always protecting Bei Yunj. Shang Yan is quite capable. Bei Yunj suddenly admitted. She wasn't in Higgins' group, but Shang Yan managed Higgins' group in an orderly manner alone. The man laughed softly, as if it was an illusion in the night wind. Bei Yunj only heard the man ask coldly. And then, Bei Yunj. Although she didn't quite understand what Huashidu meant, Bei Yunj wasn't stupid from his tone. She had a feeling that something could easily happen in this direction. Bei Yunj deliberated for a moment and nodded numbly. Pretty good. Chapter 11:22. Huashidu subconsciously licked his thin red lips and laughed angrily. Back at the manor. Stay here. The man dropped a sentence and went upstairs without looking back. Bei Yunj? Bei Yunj started to think about what she had said just now to make this person unhappy. Why did he want her to reflect downstairs in the middle of the night? However, not long after, Bei Yunj saw the man come down with a medical kit. Sit properly. Huashidu opened the medical kit and slowly rolled up the girl's pants under Bei Yunj's suspicious gaze. Her slender calves were so fair that they were dazzling, but her knee was bruised and swollen. Blood was seeping out from the middle. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She did not notice the injury on her knee and thought that it was just a red and swollen patch that would heal in 2 days. It was only when the man held her slender and fair ankle and placed it on his thigh as he applied alcohol on her wound that Bei Yunj trembled slightly. Only then did she know how painful it was. The man paused and became even gentler and more careful. From time to time, he would gently blow at her wound. The numbing itch made Bei Yunj's body go soft for some reason. Bei Yunj watched as the man lowered his head and treated her wound. Her beautiful eyes darkened, but her thoughts ran wild. After Huashidu finished treating her wound, the corners of her lips curved up. Suddenly, she supported herself on the sofa with one hand and leaned closer to the man. She smiled and said, "Brother, I'm going to take the college entrance examination in a few days. When do you think is suitable for me to start dating?" The man's eyes were dark and gloomy. The moment he looked up, he met her beautiful and seductive eyes. This little girl probably didn't know the consequences of flirting, especially for a man who had been enduring and restraining himself. Huashida's Adam's apple bobbed. When he spoke again, his voice was hoarse, but it was hopelessly sexy. "When do you want to start dating?" Bei Yunj's mind was only thinking about when to kidnap this D*MN man into bed. Looking at the man's fixed gaze, she almost couldn't help but ask him if he wanted to hit a home run. Bei Yunj's beautiful canine teeth subconsciously rubbed the side of her cheeks to wake herself up. It can't be too late. A young girl of this age dashed around recklessly, and the way she played straight balls was simply frightening. The man's eyes were so dark that ink could drip out. Looking at the girl with slender legs on the sofa, his eyes were also stimulated by that touch of whiteness. Yes. The man's deep voice was faint, but it revealed an unconcealable hoarseness and lust. On the plane, Bei Yunj leaned back lazily. Suddenly, a girl came up to her and called out sneakily, "Miss?" Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and slowly opened her eyes. She thought they were almost there. In the end, it was a little girl with a pair of doe eyes. She looked around furtively and asked carefully, "Miss, does your brother have a girlfriend?" After that, the little girl's face turned red. Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment and rubbed her forehead. She looked up and asked, "Which one?" "The one who sat next to you just now. Wasn't he a little too handsome? With the face of a top-notch scumbag and those peach blossom eyes. It was as if there were 100,000 Pikachu running in my heart." The girl was extremely excited. Bei Yunj was silent. After a long while, she slowly removed the brim of her cap and mask, revealing a bright and flamboyant face. "Do you think that I look very similar to him?" Bei Yunj was quite polite, but there was no smile in her eyes. The girl subconsciously fell into a daze. Chapter 11:23. At first, when she heard Bei Yunj call the man next door brother, she thought that it was an ordinary sibling relationship. But now, looking at Bei Yunj's excessively beautiful face, she was obviously wrong. She had thought that it was a sibling relationship, but in the end, it turned out to be a couple. Huashidu had just returned, and Sung-Soo followed him respectfully. "Miss, are you hungry?" Bei Yunj did not say anything. Sung-Soo probed, "What do you want to eat?" Bei Yunj glanced at the person beside her and pulled down her hat again. She said faintly, "Pikachu." Sung-Soo. In the airport. It was empty and bright. There was a cool breeze in the airport. Outside the huge glass wall, there were clear clouds. Walking on the white bricks that reflected the changing wind and clouds outside, the people who could distinguish the sky from the ground were the pedestrians coming and going. On the way, Sung-Soo looked at Bei Yunj in front and could not help but ask, "Master Du, did you bully Miss Pei yesterday?" Huashida's cold gaze quickly swept past him. Sung-Soo shut his mouth. It was only when he saw Bei Yunj sitting in the front passenger seat that the man licked his itchy teeth. He felt that it was not a good thing for this child to sulk. Not long after, Bei Yunj, who was sorting out her emotions, realized that Sung-Soo was also here today. The person driving should be Sung-Soo too. However, When she regained her senses, Bei Yunj was about to get out of the car when she saw Huashidu open the door of the driver's seat and sit in. Bei Yunj watched as Huashidu started the car. Why was the atmosphere not right? However, looking at the man's eyes, Bei Yunj did not react for a moment before she received a call. Bei Yunj turned on her phone. It was probably Xiang Yan who wanted to ask if she had arrived in Yincheng. Seeing that the atmosphere was slightly quiet, Bei Yunj picked up the call and silently turned her head to the side, answering Xiang Yan intermittently. It was probably about the company and the doctor's resume that he had sent over. They chatted for a few minutes. Xiang Yan suddenly fell silent and asked, "Did you quarrel with Mr. Hua?" Bei Yunj paused. "I don't think so." Xiang Yan could not help but chuckle when he heard that. He suddenly felt that Huashidu was quite pitiful sometimes. He pretended to ask, "Eldest miss, when do you think you can treat me to a meal?" "Eat." Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. "You came to Yunqing? When?" As soon as he finished speaking. By the time Bei Yunj realized what had happened, her phone had already fallen into someone else's hand, and the car had already stopped by the side of the road. The man said casually, "President Xiang, if you want to come to Yuncheng for a meal, you can come anytime. I'm always free." Hearing this, Xiang Yan smiled. "All right, I'll definitely visit if I have the chance." The call was hung up. Bei Yunj was also looking at him. When the man thought about how Bei Yunj had ignored him and chatted with Xiang Yan as if there was no one else around, he could not help but lick the corner of his lips and smile. His hand on the steering wheel suddenly took out a cigarette from the cigarette box at the side. His well-defined hand held a cigarette and lazily lit it. He asked in a light tone, "You want to date him?" Bei Yunj looked at the man's upturned eyes. His pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes were a little cynical. However, there was no smile in his eyes, but it still made her heart itch. What? Bei Yunj was a little seduced by the way the man smoked. Chapter 11:24. In fact, Huashidu had never smoked in front of her. In this man, smoking had become a kind of mood. It was so seductive that she could not resist and her heart pounded wildly. Huashidu placed his arm outside the car window and casually flicked the cigarette ash with his slender fingers. "Does Xiang Yan treat you better than me?" Bei Yunj. For a moment, she could not help but suspect that Xiang Yan had asked her on purpose. However, this was the first time she saw a hint of restlessness in the man's eyes. He was not wearing a shirt or a suit. He was only wearing a simple black t-shirt, which accentuated his cold and fair arm muscles. The lines of his muscles were elegant, but his handsome eyes exuded a youthful aura. It was not hard to imagine how many girls he could charm away in school. If this appearance appeared in university, people would probably think that he was a senior. Bei Yunj subconsciously looked away, her heart pounding. "No." However, she answered too quickly and felt that it was a little perfunctory. "Are you tired of staying with me?" Bei Yunj watched as the man bit the cigarette and leaned back. His slightly raised jawline was well defined, his sexy Adam's apple bobbed, and the cigarette butt turned scarlet. Finally, he casually exhaled a beautiful smoke ring. This should be the first time Huashidu did not coax her like a child, but it was even more ambiguous and made her heart beat faster. "Not really." Bei Yunj started to coax Huashidu again. She smiled intimately into his ear and tested the edge of danger. "Haven't you tried it yet?" Hearing this, Huashidu suddenly laughed. At this moment, Bei Yunj realized that something was wrong. The man did not seem to have calmed down. However, he turned to look at her. "Bei Yunj. Try? Why? Yunyan wants to check the goods." The man's usually lazy and carefree peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint smile, and there was an inexplicable sense of aggression. Without waiting for Bei Yunj to react, she saw the man slowly extinguish the cigarette butt and throw away the cigarette in his hand. The next moment, the man suddenly took off his shirt in a practiced manner, revealing his strong waist and abdomen. His Apollo's belt was faintly visible, and his firm and sexy eight-pack abs made one's imagination run wild. The man was topless and had broad shoulders and a narrow waist. He had one hand by her waist, and he held the girl's hand and moved it down his abs. When Bei Yunj touched the piece of metal on the man's belt, her whole body froze, and the world in her mind collapsed. "Do you need me to teach you how to play?" The man looked at her and her ears turned red, but he only laughed in a low and lazy voice and blew into her ear playfully. The neat trousers and metal buttons did not give Bei Yunj a sense of security. Instead, she increasingly felt that the man's temperament was both lustful and flirtatious, revealing a strong sense of crisis. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. It was the first time she was so nervous. She instinctively wanted to push the man away. Hoshidu were in the car. Moreover, it was broad daylight, and the car was parked not far from the crowd. Yes, our union is young and likes to experiment with different things. The man curled his lips lazily. Every word he said by her ear made the girl's ears turn red. Aren't you trying your best to satisfy Union? Today, this man seemed to be deliberately trying to take her life. Feeling the man holding her hand to undo the metal buckle on his belt, Bei Yunj immediately broke free. Hoshidu. It was the first time she was teased so much that her voice was unstable. Her heart raced, and she flew into a rage out of humiliation. In the end, Bei Yunj looked at him expressionlessly. However, the little girl's snow-white neck was flushed red. When the man saw this, he could not help but laugh. His pair of seductive peach blossom eyes curled up. As his shoulders trembled slightly, it was as if countless little stars had fallen into his eyes. It was really 100,000 volts hit her heart. Chapter 11:25. Bei Yunj had lived for 2 lifetimes. This was the first time she felt what it meant to be utterly embarrassed. Now, Bei Yunj sat in the front passenger seat and looked at Hoshidu, who was in a good mood. Her heart was already numb. Back home, Bei Yunj quickly went upstairs, but when she thought of the scene in the car just now, she couldn't write a report summary. Suddenly, Bei Yunj felt that high school life was quite good. It was simple and happy. The next day, Bei Yunj returned to school early in the morning. Hongda High School. Bei Yunj had just arrived at the entrance when she saw a huge crowd. She raised her eyebrows and quickly avoided them and entered the school. "Student, where's your badge?" Bei Yunj was stopped. Recently, too many fans wanted to sneak in, so those without badges were not allowed in. Bei Yunj paused. Badge. She suddenly remembered that if she didn't wear her badge would be deducted. She licked the corner of her lips. Grade 12 Class 7 Bei Yunj. As soon as she finished speaking, the student on duty froze and looked up at Bei Yunj, who had taken off her mask. His ears turned red. Senior Pei. Senior Pei was actually back. The junior was incoherent. "Senior, you can go in." Bei Yunj was a little surprised. She only nodded and said politely, "Thank you." With that said, Bei Yunj entered the door, while the other students on duty looked at Bei Yunj's back view excitedly. "Is this grade 12 Bei Yunj? She's too good looking. It's over. I'm not going to be straight anymore." The other junior couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Forget it. Aren't you afraid of the 2 top students by Senior Pei's side?" After the girl finished speaking, her tone changed. "But Senior Pei's tie is really awesome. There's actually a girl who looks so handsome in a tie." On the 3rd floor, Bei Yunj could feel how tense the atmosphere was as she walked along the corridor. Even if the students were fetching water, they were also memorizing words. Many people were discussing this matter in front of the grade list. F***CK, are you serious? Qin Youjiao is first in the exam again. That's too fierce. Yeah, she came back from nearly a month ago and got first place in all 4 weekly exams. It's even scarier than when we were in school. Hearing this, someone was scared. But she still has extra points. The International Musicians Association can give her at least 15 points. So this time, Qin Youjiao is very likely to be the provincial top scholar. I heard that the students from number 1 high school next door didn't score higher than Qin Youjiao. Several people couldn't help but discuss. At this time, Bei Yunj lazily leaned against the side of the ranking board and looked at Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi with their lips pursed in disappointment. What's the standard of the 7th class? Wasn't he very arrogant before? Why is she being beaten up by our class Qin Youjiao now? The students of class 1 couldn't help but clamor, as if they had vented their anger. This month, class 7 didn't get first place even once. Goddess Qin is still Goddess Qin. When she came back from Neely, Not only did she become the youngest C-level member of the International Musicians Association, she even beat everyone in the mock exam. What kind of big boss revenge script is this? The people from Class 1 continued to praise her. However, Chu Zhixing's tone was mocking. Acknowledged her as your master? You're so good at barking for others? Bei Yunj was quite surprised. When did Chu Zhixing become so good at scolding people? Lu Yuanxi also smiled carelessly. Yeah, our class isn't full either. What's the hurry? However, hearing this, the people from Class 1's tone became even more mocking. Don't tell me you think that you can beat Qin Youjiao just because Bei Yunj is back. Chapter 11:26. The people from Class 7 are treating her as their savior. Why don't they think about how that idler is better than Qin Youjiao? Another person's tone was contemptuous and mocking. You. Because Qin Youjiao had been first in the weekly exam 4 times in a row. This indeed made the students of Class 7 speechless. Qin Youjiao had indeed changed a lot after coming back this time. They also knew that Bei Yunj was really going out to play. They might really be slapped in the face by Qin Youjiao. Wake up, who does Bei Yunj think she is? Why do you have to kneel and lick such a B***tch? Before that person could finish speaking, Chu Zhixing suddenly grabbed him by the collar. Chu Zhixing was filled with coldness and murderous intent. The veins on his hands bulged and his eyes were cold. Say that again? Suddenly, a slow voice sounded. Xiaochu, your temper hasn't been very good recently. Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi froze and turned to look at the person beside them. Bei Yunj took off his black mask and hat lazily and walked in front of Chu Zhixing to measure his height. Did you grow taller? Hearing this, Chu Zhixing nodded obediently. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. This was really Bei Yunj's little puppy. Are you judging me? Bei Yunj walked in front of that boy again. There was no smile in his eyes, but it was even more terrifying than Chu Zhixing's cold expression just now. The boy froze and suddenly remembered how Bei Yunj had hit people in year 2. Bei Yunj only patted his face with the mineral water bottle in his hand and smiled gently. Then what are you? The boy's face paled and he apologized in fright. I am sorry. Get lost. Don't bully the children of Class 7, do you understand? Bei Yunj's eyes curved and the mineral water bottle suddenly hit his chest. The boy's face was twisted in pain, and even the veins on his neck were popping out. I understand. This scene made one's scalp turn numb. No one else in Class 7 dared to provoke Bei Yunj openly. It didn't take long for them to disappear without a trace. Master Pei is so arrogant. Lu Yuanxi unconsciously curled the corners of his lips and said in a carefree manner. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and ignored him arrogantly. He turned around and left. Lu Yuanxi. No one was more arrogant than his deskmate. In the office, Teacher 1, who knew that Bei Yunj was back, couldn't stop smiling. Those who didn't know better would think that their daughter was returning home. Their faces were filled with joy and they were polite to everyone they met. However, the head teacher of Class 1 glanced at Mr. 1 and said with a strange smile, Mr. 1, how long has it been since Bei Yunj studied? There were only 2 or 3 days left before the college entrance examination. Don't let it be worse than the time during the joint entrance exam. Teacher 1 just tolerated it and smiled indifferently. We'll ask her when the time comes. If you take student Qin Youjiao with you, you might even be able to produce a top scholar in the city. Top scorer in the city. The head teacher of Class 1's tone was filled with pride. With Qin Youjiao's stable results and her extra marks, she might even be able to become the top scorer in the province. I actually know your difficulties, Teacher 1. Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing are good at following people, but they are a little biased. As for Bei Yunj, she's too arrogant. She really thinks that no one can compare to her. Hearing this, Teacher 1's expression changed. He could tolerate it usually, but it didn't mean that others could point a gun at his students. I've never told students that they have to fight for the first place in everything. But I also have to warn teacher how that you might not be able to win even if you fight for it. Chapter 11:27. Teacher Hao's expression darkened. You. Teacher Hao, I'm going to class, so I won't talk to you anymore. With that said, Teacher 1 left the office. In the entire grade, the news of Bei Yunj's return spread. Class 1. Qin Youjiao's eyes darkened as a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Bei Yunj is back. Yes. She even hit Wang Xuqiang. This person is simply a hooligan in school. The girl said angrily. Forget it. She won't be able to cause trouble for long. Qin Youjiao only smiled, the faint mockery in her eyes. It was obvious that she did not take Bei Yunj seriously. Anyway, she came back this time to crush Bei Yunj into the mud. Youjiao, you seem to have been reborn this time. Your score is stable at 730 points. Even if you don't get extra points, you'll definitely enter Yin University. Everyone could not help but be envious. What do you mean by rebirth? I just did a little more homework. Qin Youjiao chuckled. In Neely, apart from practicing the piano, she did questions and only slept for 5 to 6 hours. She studied desperately so that she would not be stepped on by anyone. It was also to make Bei Yunj realize that she would never have the right to compete with her. At this thought, coldness flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes. When Teacher Wen arrived at the class arrogantly, he found that everyone else was doing their homework quietly and Bei Yunj was sleeping. She really didn't give him any peace of mind. Seeing that Teacher Wen's expression was not good, Lu Yuanci immediately pushed Bei Yunj. Master Pei, if you don't wake up, old one will eat someone. Pei Yunj woke up slowly. Her eyes were slightly red, but her expression was not good. Teacher Wen gave a fake smile. Bei Yunj, aren't you used to sleeping at the desk after going out to play for a few months? Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment before she nodded. Everyone was speechless. As expected of Master Pei, Teacher Wen's expression darkened. She was hopeless. She was hopeless. However, Lu Yuanci immediately said, Teacher, Bei Yunj has a cold today. Bei Yunj turned to look at him. Question mark. But after meeting Lu Yuanci's eyes, Bei Yunj quickly understood. Lu Yuanci was deliberately covering for her. Okay, Bei Yunj replied. Only then did Mr. Wen's face fade away. He couldn't help but say with concern, take care of your body. Don't let it affect your performance in the college entrance examination. Yes, thank you, teacher. Bei Yunj nodded. Teacher Wen nodded and gave a few instructions before letting the students do their homework. Afterward, Lu Yuanci also noticed that there was something wrong with Bei Yunj's expression. What's wrong with you? Are you dreaming? Yeah. Since last night, she had been dreaming about the scene in the car with Huashidu yesterday. One moment, the man was blowing air into her ear. And the next moment, the man was laughing. That pair of peach blossom eyes were like electricity. The scene of such a restricted level made it hard for people to speak. Bei Yunj. Was this man here to curse her to death? What did you dream of? Lu Yuanci leaned over and asked. Bei Yunj picked up the glass and drank some water. Then she picked up the iPad and said faintly, Pikachu with electricity. Lu Yuanci? Question mark. But it was only in the afternoon that Lu Yuanci started to wonder if his mouth had been blessed. Bei Yunj really had a cold and her forehead was still a little hot. Until school ended. Bei Yunj, who had already taken the cold medicine, had her usual lazy and beautiful eyes looking listless at this moment. However, at the school gate, she saw Mrs. Qin picking up Qin Youjiao. The surrounding fans also lost control. Chapter 11:28. Jiao Jiao, all the best for the college entrance examination. The fans in the crowd were shouting. Qin Youjiao smiled and Mrs. Qin, who was holding Qin Youjiao's hand, also smiled at everyone. Thank you everyone. Everyone go back early. Hearing this, the fans became even more excited. However, Qin Youjiao also noticed Bei Yunj in the crowd. She held Mrs. Qin's hand casually and smiled sweetly. Mom, didn't I say that you should rest well and not come and fetch me? My daughter did so well and studied so hard. As a mother, of course I have to care about my daughter. Mrs. Qin touched Qin Youjiao's forehead and said with a smile, Jiao Jiao, Mom will always be proud of you. Qin Youjiao acted coquettishly with Mrs. Qin. However, Bei Yunj only looked away calmly and answered the chauffeur's call. Because there were too many fans, the chauffeur could not stop at the school gate, so Bei Yunj could only leave and walk to a nearby intersection. Mom, Bei Yunj is back too. Do you want to meet her? Qin Youjiao asked after Bei Yunj left. However, Mrs. Qin frowned the moment she heard this name. What's there to meet her? Jiao Jiao, stay away from her too, lest you get into trouble. Mom, I think that Bei Yunji's results are actually alright. They're not that bad. What if she can enter Yin University too? Before Qin Youjiao could finish speaking, Mrs. Qin interrupted her and said with a smile. Her? How is that possible? Jiao Jiao, you don't have to care about her. A dark glint flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes, but she hoped that Bei Yunji could hear these words with her own ears. She would only vent her anger if she could see Bei Yunji lose her luster. Back home, Bei Yunji had just entered the hall when she looked up and found that not only was Huashida there today, even old Madame Hua and Momo were there. Grandma Hua. After Bei Yunji regained her senses, she called out with a smile. However, old Madame Hua immediately stood up, her expression nervous. Gu, why does your voice sound wrong? Are you not feeling well? It's all right. Bei Yunji did not even look at the man on the sofa beside her. However, the next moment, old Madame Hua held Bei Yunji's face and pressed her forehead against Bei Yunji's forehead. She said, What do you mean? He was starting to have a fever. I told you that Huashida doesn't know how to take care of girls. The college entrance exam was in 2 days. If you're still running a fever, then you're definitely not in good condition for the college entrance exam. Fever? Didn't sleep well last night? Huashida then looked at Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji? No. Before the college entrance exam, Guer had to return to the old house. I'll take care of her myself. Old Madame Hua's words caused Bei Yunji and Huashida to disagree. Grandma Hua, that's too much trouble. Bei Yunji frowned. Huashida also said, Old Madam, how can you have the energy? I have a lot of energy. It's better than someone like you who stays in the company every day. How have you taken care of Gu? Old Madame Hua grabbed Bei Yunji's hand. Let's put it this way. I'm taking her away today. You have to listen to Yunyun's thoughts. The man said slowly. However, he did not expect Bei Yunji to suddenly look up at him and be silent for a moment. That works too? Huashida. Bei Yunji looked away. She did not want to have that dream again tonight. After pushing Bei Yunji into the car, old Madame Hua educated Huashida outside the car. Shidu, I really don't want to pretend that I only have one grandson, MOMO, during the family gathering this year. End of this chapter. Chapter 1129. Huashida was speechless. Soon, Sung Su could not help but sigh when he saw Madame Hua take Bei Yunji away. Madame Hua was still as ruthless as ever. Other than Madame Hua, no one dared to jump into Master Du's minefield. In the car, Momo was very happy. He could finally let his sister accompany him for a few days. However, Momo's happiness did not last long. Madame Hua said, Don't disturb sister's preparation for the college entrance examination. Then she shut Momo at the door. Only a lass was left circling around its little master, shaking its head foolishly. However, what made Madame Hua at a loss was that in the next 2 days, Bei Yunji's fever became even worse. When Madame Hua saw the temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, her hands almost trembled. She immediately called for a private doctor. Dr. Jiang, you must cure my Gu. My Gu is taking the college entrance examination tomorrow. There can't be any accidents. Madame Hua could only treat Jiang Baichuan as her savior. However, Jiang Baichuan smiled insincerely. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the Hua family's Empress Dowager, he would definitely scold her. He was a doctor, not a sorcerer. How was it possible for a high fever to disappear overnight? It was already 40 degrees Celsius. Any higher and her brain would be fried. When Jiang Baichuan thought about how Miss Pei still had to take the college entrance examination tomorrow, he felt a headache coming on. He took a deep breath. Madame Hua, I can only try my best to lower her temperature so that she will be in a better state tomorrow. But what about Guer's college entrance examination? The old madam immediately blamed herself and was annoyed. How could this be? In the past, when she took care of Jing, Shidu and Momo were fine. I can only say that it's up to fate. It doesn't matter if Miss Pei repeats for a year. Jiang Baichuan didn't think much of it. Anyway, the Qin family and the Hua family could support her. The next day, Bei Bei Yunji's condition was slightly better, but after taking her temperature, she still had a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. Madame Hua hugged Bei Yunji early in the morning and cried. Bei Yunji's head hurt even more. Grandma Hua, I haven't been to the examination hall. Hearing Bei Yunji's voice, Madame Hua Gehua, Madame Huoyu, you really want to take the exam? Why don't you do it next year? Grandma will definitely find you the best teacher and get you into Yunqing University. Bei Yunji. It won't take long. Seeing that Bei Yunji insisted on going, old Madame Hua could only ask someone to prepare and send Bei Yunji to the examination hall. However, when Bei Yunji went downstairs, she did not expect Huashidu to already be waiting on the sofa. Bei Yunji had been in a daze for the past 2 days. When she looked at Huashidu, she even paused. Brother. Huashidu knew that Bei Yunji had a high fever last night, so he drove back to the old residence. He walked over to Bei Yunji and touched Bei Yunji's forehead. It was still very hot. Old Madame Hua felt guilty. Shidu, why don't you let Guo rest at home? Do you want to take the exam? Huashidu asked her. Bei Yunji nodded. Huashidu was silent for a moment, but his lips curled up. He held Bei Yunji's hand and walked out. Go then. However, Bei Yunji also felt that the man's palm was a little sweaty. For the first time, Bei Yunji realized that this man, who had always been casual and carefree, could also be nervous. Bei Yunji could not help but smile, but she did not say anything. In the car, after Bei Yunji drank some fever medicine, she leaned on Huashidu's shoulder and slept. After Huashidu finished counting the necessities for the exam that he had prepared for Bei Yunji yesterday, he slowly turned to look at her. He also laughed in anger and reached out to pinch her fingers. Why did I fall into your hands? P.S. Good night, good boys. Chapter 1130. Bei Yunji woke up slowly and saw the crowd of students outside. This was the first time she felt the atmosphere of the college entrance examination. Do you want to go down and take a look? Huashidu asked from the side. Bei Yunji nodded, and the two of them got out of the car together. After Bei Yunji got out of the car, the surrounding gazes quickly landed on Bei Yunji and Huashidu. Especially Huashidu. The man's aura was hard to ignore. Now that he was wearing an elegant tailored suit, he looked light and arrogant. Huashidu's well-defined hand held a black long-handled umbrella, taking care that Bei Yunji could not bask in the sun. He then took out a bottle of cold water from the car and pressed it against Bei Yunji's cheek. This scene made the surrounding people extremely envious. Was there a mistake? He was butchering dogs during the college entrance examination. Bei Yunji held the man's warm hand very smoothly. When she rubbed the mineral water bottle, she also rubbed against the man's hand. She would be a fool not to take advantage of him. The man was used to it and only glanced at her casually. He laughed ambiguously. Just as Bei Yunji looked puzzled, she heard him smile unhurriedly. That's good. Brother likes our Yunji to be fearless. Bei Yunji was speechless. Bei Yunji immediately let go of his hand. In a way, Pei Qian was indeed unforgettable. He was clearly a bronze-level person who could fall ill from insomnia after being flirted with, but he still felt that he was a king. Suddenly, Teacher Wen's voice sounded in surprise. Isn't this Brother Bei Yunji? Teacher Wen. Huashidu nodded slightly. Teacher Wen, who was wearing a volunteer vest, greeted him and realized that Bei Yunji's expression was not right. Bei Yunji, are you not feeling well? Bei Yunji hummed lazily, her voice thick with nasality. Don't tell me you have a fever? Teacher Wen's expression changed. Pei Yunji's eyelids were slightly closed as she lifted them lazily, looking listless. Teacher Wen immediately panicked. How high is your fever? Are you feeling unwell? Don't be nervous, Bei Yunji. Do your best. You can definitely do it. Let me teach you. Take a deep breath and calm down. Bei Yunji said. Teacher, you should calm down first. Why do you suddenly have a fever? Hearing Teacher Wen's noisy voice, Pei Yunji immediately turned to look at Huashidu. Brother, you can go back first. There's still a minute to go. I'll go over first. With that said, Pei Yunji turned around without thinking and prepared to leave. But in the next second she was suddenly pulled back. The man's eyes were extremely dark. He stared straight at her and seemed to sigh. Brother is still quite nervous. Bei. Huashidu raised his eyebrows and looked at her patiently, as if he was really waiting for her to coax him. Pei Yunj. Did he need her to coax him? She, who was sick, wasn't nervous to go to the examination hall. Why was he nervous? This thought had just appeared in Bei Yunj's mind, but before she could react, someone suddenly grabbed the back of her neck gently. In the next second, Bei Yunj took a step forward and the man bent down, pressing 2 warm kisses on her forehead. In that moment, the man moved away. When the people around saw this scene, they were immediately flirted. Wasn't this 2F** king tempting? Chapter 1131. The man's fingers caressed the back of her neck intimately, causing her to tremble. Do well, Yunyan. However, the man's low laughter rang in her ears, as if there was no one else around. If you do well, everything will be yours. The others could not see the girl's face clearly. They could only see that the girl's ears were red. They did not know what the man had just said with a smile. Teacher Wen also felt that this seemed to have deviated from what he knew. Although he knew that Huashidu was not Bei Yunj's biological brother, he had always thought that he was her cousin or something. But wasn't the current direction a little wrong? She was stunned for 2 seconds as she looked at Bei Yunj. Sing Su, who was beside her, could not help but sigh. True love can indeed conquer everything. Miss Pei will definitely have endless inspiration and win the college entrance examination. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj turned around and bumped into someone. She was in so much pain that she immediately covered her head. He didn't seem to be a very smart person. Sung Su was speechless. Teacher Wen was speechless. It was over. She looked like she had drunk a box of vodka. Looking at Bei Yunj's back view as she left, Teacher Wen was almost depressed. How is it? I think I saw Bei Yunj go in just now. How is she? Bei Yunj's physics teacher asked with a smile. Teacher Wen said. She has a fever. She might be in a bad state. She's sick at this time? Is it serious? The physics teacher frowned. Teacher Wen instinctively looked at Huashidu. Sing Su answered first, 39 degrees Celsius. This time, the teachers fell silent. This was already a high fever. If it rose another 2 degrees, her brain would be damaged. How can she take the exam in this state? The language teacher beside him was also worried. That's right. The examinees from the previous cohort that I taught had a low fever that affected their performance. They were 20 to 30 points worse than usual. However, hearing their discussion, Teacher Hao of Class 1 was secretly delighted. He was overjoyed. Bei Yunj was already in such a state. Wasn't she basically saying goodbye to the top 3 in the cohort? She walked into the examination hall. The invigilator also noticed that Bei Yunj did not look too good. Student, are you not feeling well? Yes, I have a slight fever. Bei Yunj's voice was slightly hoarse. It didn't sound like she had a fever. The invigilator sighed. Come on, hang in there. Every year, there would be children who would catch a cold at this time. How unlucky. Thank you, teacher. Bei Yunj smirked. After returning to her seat, she touched her forehead. But soon, the test papers were handed out. The Chinese language exam. The teacher saw that the first person to put down her pen was Bei Yunj. Once he closed the paper, he fell asleep on the table. Seeing this, the teacher couldn't help but sigh. He secretly felt pity for this examinee. 2 exams were completed. Bei Yunj had just reached the door when she saw Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi looking at her with a messy expression. It was as if he was admiring her strong will despite her physical disability. Master Pei, it's all right. If it doesn't work out, you can be my junior. Lu Yuanxi consoled. Bei Yunj couldn't be bothered to look at him and left. After a few exams, everyone in Hengda knew that the big boss who got first place in the college entrance examination had a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. It was a pity that her fate was full of misfortune. Back at the Qin family's old mansion. How did Gu do? Old Master Qin was also very nervous. Bei Yunj nodded. Not bad. However, Qin Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. He pursed his lips and said in a bad tone, Grandpa. They had just agreed not to mention the college entrance examination results. But the old master asked about it the moment they met. End of chapter. Chapter 1132. Old Master Qin knew that he had misspoken. Qin Yu found out from Huashidu that Bei Yunj had a high fever on the day of the college entrance examination, and was in a daze. This score. It was already good enough that she could get a good score. Grandpa, I'll go upstairs and rest for a while. With that said, Old Master Qin hurriedly agreed. However, after Bei Yunj went up, the men of the Qin family fell silent. All of them sat on the sofa with their heads lowered. They thought that Bei Yunj was depressed, but she still pretended to be calm. What should we do now? Old Master Qin could not help asking. Qin Luyan suddenly said, when Guo recovers, let her go on a trip. This way, no one would be able to improve their results in front of her. Sure. I happen to be free. Qin Lang immediately expressed his stance. Qin Yu laughed coldly. You're a directionally challenged person. Are you worthy of going out with Guo? Brother, I think I'm more. Qin Lang could not be bothered with Qin Yu. He turned around, wanting to curry favor with Qin Luyan, but met Qin Luyan's cold gaze. Are you all free? Qin Luyan extinguished the cigarette in his hand and asked slowly. Qin Yu and Qin Lang shut up. However, in the end, the person who could accompany Bei Yunj on a trip had not been confirmed. Once Bei Yunj recovered, she went to the Computing Institute. Even Zhong Shenglin could not help but rack his brains when he heard that Bei Yunj was going to take the college entrance examination with a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. Gu, have you thought of which school you want to go to? Zhong Shenglin asked. Bei Yunj continued to do her experiment. Up to you. Hearing this, Zhong Shenglin glanced at Bei Yunj and could not help but feel sorry for her. Although Bei Yunj had been engrossed in her research these few days, Zhong Shenglin could occasionally see Bei Yunj sitting alone in the corridor in a daze. She looked like she had suffered a setback in her life. Gu, although the higher-ups don't want you to reveal your identity, don't worry. I'll talk to the principal of Yin University, and he will definitely give me face. Even if you fail the college entrance exam, you will still be admitted to Yin University. Bei Yunj. No need. Elder Xiang went to visit the families of the top scorers today. How would he have the time to deal with you? Si Qingyan chuckled. Zhong Xinglin's face darkened, and he pretended to grab his weapon. Si Qingyan, do you really think that my temper has been good these 2 years? Si Qingyan was so frightened that he hid behind Bei Yunj. In reality, Zhong Shenglin was not angry because of Si Qingyan's words, but because he had visited the family of the top student today, but did not look for Bei Yunj. The top 10 students of each high school were given the lowest score. The students who were most likely to be the city's top scorer were all visited at home. When Teacher Wen thought about how Bei Yunj had gone to take the exam with a high fever, he didn't ask Bei Yunj to estimate her score. Especially when he found out that the Qin brothers were preparing to send Bei Yunj on a trip to ease his mood. Bei Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan, who was about to be beaten up, and frowned. Old Master, I've calculated all the data you asked me to calculate for you. So fast? Zhong Shenglin was shocked. Usually, it would take him half a day to calculate. Did Bei Yunj count this as an hour? Yes, take a look. Bei Yunj looked at the time and realized that tomorrow was the college entrance exam results day. Soon, Bei Yunj looked away, but she didn't know that the men in the Qin family couldn't sleep that night. The next day, the college entrance exam score system was almost crushed. The form teacher of Year 3 surrounded a computer and refreshed the results every 2 minutes. P.S. There's one more chapter. Chapter 1133. Why aren't Qin Youjiao's results out yet? The form teachers of the other classes could not help asking. Teacher Hao from Class 1 said with a smile. Teacher Huang has never taught the city's top scholar before, right? The one with the highest score will be stopped. Teacher Huang almost rolled her eyes. It was as if she had taught the city's top scholar before. However, the first high score was Lu Yuanxi's. Candidate name, Lu Yuanxi Chinese, 120 Mathematics, 135 Foreign Language, 150 Science Comprehensive, 283 total, 688 city ranking. 11th Lu Yuanxi is ranked 11th in the city. The others were envious. This Lu Yuanxi's original results were below average, but he was ranked 11th in the city for the college entrance examination. Only Teacher Wen frowned. It seems like the exam paper this time is indeed too difficult. Usually the top 20 in Yuncheng had more than 700 points. But this year's 11th place only had 688 points? Enough, old one. Anyway, once the difficulty of the college entrance examination increases, the admission score will definitely drop. I estimate that Yin University's admission score won't be higher than 680 points. After the teachers finished discussing, another high score was obtained not long after. This time it was from Class 1. He had made it to 700 points, and was ranked 5th in the city. This made the teachers unable to believe that the 5th place in the city only had 702 points. What was the difficulty of the college entrance examination this time? It was too scary. However, before the form teachers could be shocked, there was a ding. Another student had a high score. Candidate name, Chu Zhixing Chinese, 139 Mathematics, 145 Foreign Language, 131 Science Comprehensive, 296 total, 711 city ranking, third in the city. There are actually so many people in the top 20 in our school. The form teachers were excited. They would definitely get their year-end bonus this time. There's still Qin Youjiao who hasn't had any results yet. Doesn't this mean that our school has taken the top 3 places in the city? Qin Youjiao will definitely be first. Don't forget that she still has bonus points. This year's bonus points will be directly counted into the ranking. Everyone was even more excited. Only Teacher Wen's eyes darkened when he thought of Bei Yunji's abnormal performance. He suddenly felt that he had let this child down. He had not taken good care of such a good seedling. When the time came, Bei Yunji would definitely be sad if she saw that Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing had done so well. Teacher Wen sighed. However, when he was about to leave, several form teachers lost control when they saw the new scores. Candidate name, Qin Language, 141 Mathematics, 140 Foreign Languages, 145 Comprehensive Science, 290 bonus points, 20 total score, 736 city ranking, 2 ND 736 points? He's only in 2nd place? All the form teachers suddenly felt their scalps turn numb. One had to know that Qin Youjiao had an additional point. Was there such a huge gap between the 2nd place and the 1st place? Immediately, the homeroom teachers had mixed feelings. They originally thought that the city's top scorer would definitely be Hengda's. But in the end, such a dark horse appeared. Qin Youjiao had added 20 points, but she wasn't even higher than 1st place. The one with the worst expression was still Teacher Hao. He originally thought that she would definitely become the city's top scorer. He was even the provincial champion. But in the end, Qin Youjiao actually added 20 points and didn't even get 1st place. Mr. Hao glanced at Qin Youjiao's provincial and national volleyball. The province ranked 3rd, and the country ranked 4th. This was already very high. Alright, now that we've seen the scores, let's summarize the results of our classes. Although he was unwilling, he had to admit that this examinee was probably an immortal. When everyone heard this, they could only silently prepare to leave. But just as everyone was about to leave, the computer suddenly rang. A teacher was confused. What's going on? There are still students whose scores haven't been recorded? P.S. Good night. Chapter 1134. The teacher closest to her felt that it was strange, and immediately walked to the computer. After refreshing it, he almost cursed. F***CK. What's going on? Hearing the form teacher of Class 5 making a fuss, someone could not help but say, "Don't be so surprised. What happened?" First place. The form teacher of Class 5 stuttered and could not speak. So what if she's first? Look at you. You've been in school for 5 to 6 years. Why can't you calm down? The grade director walked over and looked at the computer screen with a frown. However, when he saw it clearly in the next second, he froze. I first place Bei Yunji. As soon as he finished speaking, all the form teachers looked at the computer. Then they all looked at Teacher Wen strangely. Teacher Wen also looked up and his body trembled. What? Oh. But soon, the form teachers gathered in front of the computer, and no one answered Teacher Wen's question. Examinee name, Bei Yunji Chinese, 149 Mathematics, 150 Foreign Language, 150 Science Comprehensive, 300 total marks, 749 city ranking, first province ranking, first national ranking. First everyone looked down and their hairs stood on end. What kind of suffocating operation was this? Bei Yunj was first in the national ranking? Old one, are you sure that Bei Yunj went to the examination hall with a high fever? Someone could not help asking with a trembling voice. Teacher Wen regained his senses and nodded blankly. Yes, Bei Yunj had a high fever those days and her face was as red as an egg. When she came out, I even asked her how she did. She said that she didn't finish the essay and was too sleepy. All the form teachers were silent. The ending was not finished and only 1 point was deducted. Besides, she had gone to the college entrance examination with a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. In the end, she even became the top scholar in the National College Entrance Examination. This college entrance examination was a nightmare for others. It had even been trending many times because the questions were too difficult. But this person seemed to be unaffected. Qin Youjiao added 20 points and was still more than 10 points behind her. What kind of godlike standard was this? She did very well. Teacher Wen was surprised. If it wasn't for the fact that the others couldn't find any traces of acting on Teacher Wen's face, they would definitely beat him up. The form teachers were expressionless. Can't you King see for yourself? Teacher Wen walked to the computer in confusion, but when he saw Bei Yunj's results, he almost fell back. His mind seemed to have been blown. Zhuang Yuan. Mr. Wen's face was full of horror. He didn't expect that his first student would be a national champion. The homeroom teachers. What to do? Seeing this idiot's expression, he was even more annoyed. At this time, the homeroom teacher of class 1 also had an extremely ugly expression on his face. The homeroom teacher of class 5 could not help but ask, "Didn't you ask her how she did on the exam?" Mr. Wen. How would I dare to ask? She said her results were average. At that time he was afraid that Bei Yunj would be in a bad mood and do something stupid. Everyone else. You call this average? Under the death stares of a group of people, Teacher Wen could only brace himself and call Bei Yunj. However, after calling 4 or 5 times, the other party finally picked up. Speak. The other party's clear and melodious voice was slightly hoarse, revealing a hint of impatience. Bei Yunj didn't even look at the note. Everyone. Was this the temper of the national champion? Teacher Wen. Yunj, have you checked the results? Chapter 1135. Hearing Teacher Wen's voice, Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. No. Then, aren't you going to take a look? Teacher Wen hinted crazily. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't say anything at first. Not long after, she laughed lazily. Old Wen, there's no need to cast a shadow over my dear classmates at such a happy age, right? This person was still the most arrogant. Teacher Wen was speechless. All the form teachers were speechless. Teacher Wen couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you afraid that you'll perform badly?" Bei Yunj was silent for a moment, then gently pressed her closed eyes with her palm. Old Wen, I hope you understand that I'm having a high fever, not that my brain is damaged. Teacher Wen was speechless. At this moment, the atmosphere became even stranger and colder. In the end, when he hung up the phone, Teacher Wen was still in a daze. Bei Yunj also got out of bed and prepared to wash up. Downstairs, Old Master Qin was still drinking tea and playing cards with his mahjong partners. Old Su, don't you think that National Politics University can build a few more buildings? Old Master Qin hinted crazily. Principal Su was speechless. What are you trying to do? Did something happen to my granddaughter during the college entrance examination? She had a high fever and didn't perform well. This was the first time Old Master Qin had shamelessly asked for connections. After all, Qin Luyan and the rest went to either Nili University or Yincheng University. No, absolutely not. Principal Su immediately rejected him. He was wondering why this old fox asked him to play cards every day. After going around in circles, this was what he was waiting for. One had to know that Country A's University of Political Science and Law was a top-notch university in the country. As the principal, if he used his position for personal gain, Wouldn't he be stepping on the reputation of the University of Political Science and Law and crazily testing the edge of danger? Principal Su rolled his eyes. Can you do it? Don't make things difficult for me. At most, I can give you a special bonus, but it won't be much. With that said, Principal Su sensed that something was wrong again. No, I heard that the admissions teams of Beichuan and Yin University specially went to look for your granddaughter. How could she not do well? As soon as he finished speaking, the two mahjong partners beside him pinched his thigh and gave him a hint with their eyes. Why didn't this old Su listen to any gossip? As expected, old Master Qin was silent for a moment before he said lightly, Old Su, my granddaughter's name is Bei Yunj. You've been in Neely for the past 2 years, so you still don't know the situation. When Principal Su heard this, he immediately fell silent. After more than half a lifetime, who wouldn't be an expert? As for the other two, it was more or less a pity. Everyone in the industry had witnessed Qin Youjiao's excellence in all aspects back then. It was a pity that she was not the Qin family's biological child. The only reason he lost was because he didn't reincarnate well. Suddenly, a voice from outside the door intruded on their conversation. Dad, do you have to be so biased? Old Master Qin turned around and saw that it was Mother Qin. His face darkened and he became more vigilant. What are you doing here? For the past few days, the last thing he wanted was for Mother Qin to appear at the old mansion and use Qin Youjiao's grades to provoke Bei Yunj. After all, Mother Qin was Bei Yunj's biological mother. Old Master Qin was afraid that Bei Yunj would be sad. However, what Old Master Qin was thinking was exactly what Mother Qin was thinking. However, the difference was that Mother Qin had come this time to help Qin Youjiao regain her face. Jiao Jiao scored 736 points. I want to hold a banquet for Jiao Jiao, and hope you can come too. Chapter 1136. Hearing this, Old Master Qin was so angry that his face flushed red. His fingers trembled as he pointed at Mrs. Qin, who was wearing a Chong Sam embroidered with white orchids. Why you don't have any conscience as a mother? Almost everyone knew that Bei Yunj had gone for the college entrance examination with a high fever. Even Mr. Qin had come to show concern a few times, so it was impossible for Mrs. Qin not to know. But at this time, she was helping Qin Youjiao to show off. Mrs. Qin pursed her lips. Then she continued to laugh coldly stubbornly. Dad, you're the one who's biased. If you didn't care about Jiao Jiao's life at all, I wouldn't have done this. Jiao Jiao is the child I raised for more than 10 years, but you only have Bei Yunj in your heart. Hearing Old Master Qin and his daughter-in-law arguing on the spot, Principal Su and the rest were a little embarrassed. Old Master Qin was so angry that his heart hurt. His mahjong friends hurriedly helped him sit down. I won't go. Our Qin family only has one young lady. Old Master Qin said with a dark expression. Hearing this, anger burned in Mrs. Qin's eyes. She laughed coldly and glanced at the person beside her. Even Principal Su is here. Dad, you're too biased. If Jiao Jiao didn't do well this time, would you be willing to find connections for her? No. Old Master Qin said expressionlessly. It was not just Qin Youjiao. Even if Qin Luyan and the rest did not do well in the college entrance examination, Old Master Qin would not find any connections for them even if he made them repeat their studies. However, when Mrs. Qin heard this answer, her expression still twisted slightly. But in the next second, from the corner of her eye, Mrs. Qin saw Bei Yunj coming down from upstairs and suddenly smiled elegantly. Dad, did you not come to Jiao Jiao's banquet because Bei Yunj did well in the exam? This sentence almost infuriated Old Master Qin. If it wasn't for the fact that the men of the Qin family had been taught to never hit women, he would have picked up his walking stick. But Dad, don't worry. Even if you don't treat Jiao Jiao as your granddaughter, Jiao Jiao still hopes that she will be filial to you. The phone number and address she left for the college entrance examination was also from our old mansion. Mrs. Qin's smile was deliberate. As a child of the Qin family, how can she embarrass the Qin family? You cough cough cough. Old Master Qin was so angry that he felt dizzy. Grandpa. At this moment, Bei Yunj walked over to help Old Master Qin calm down. She had only heard a little of the conversation just now. She asked unhurriedly, "What are you talking about?" Nothing much. When old Master Qin saw his granddaughter, his voice became much gentler. This surprised Principal Su and the others. One had to know that even with Qin Youjiao back then, old Master Qin had never spoken in such a loving tone. This is Yunj, right? How are your college entrance examination results? The moment Principal Su opened his mouth, he subconsciously asked about the results. This caused old Master Qin's death gaze to fall on him. It's all right. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, looked natural. Principal Su couldn't help but ask, how many points? Bei Yunj. Not yet. Old Master Qin. Principal Su and his mahjong friends were speechless. This kind of confidence was indeed rare. Mother Qin couldn't help but scoff. She said sarcastically, if you're not good, then you're not good. How good is that? Have you had enough? Old Master Qin's voice was stern. Mrs. Qin's face paled slightly and she didn't continue. Bei Yunj glanced at Mrs. Qin with interest and chuckled softly. Mrs. Qin felt inexplicably uncomfortable. She was about to say something when someone came from outside. It was the principals of Yin University and Beichuan University. P.S. There's still one more chapter. You guys sleep first. End of this chapter. Chapter 1137. Excuse me, is this old Master Qin's house? The two principals had just arrived and were still a little nervous. After all, they had met outstanding candidates with good family backgrounds, but this was the first time they had met someone with such a good family background. It was at least a few hundred meters from the entrance of the old mansion to the living room. However, when Mrs. Qin saw this, she thought that they were here to look for Qin Youjiao. She was a little flattered. Principal Xiang, Principal Tan, why did you come personally today? Didn't you call Jiao Jiao yesterday? Hearing this, old Master Qin thought that they were here to look for Qin Youjiao and his expression darkened. He almost chased them away on the spot. Tong Yuang, I'm warning you. This is the last time. Old Master Qin's tone was dark. This made the principals of Yin University and Beichuan University feel inexplicably guilty and afraid. No way. Was old Master Qin so angry just because they didn't call Bei Yunj yesterday? Old Master Qin, this matter is related to your biological granddaughter after all. You should listen calmly. Am I her mother? Can't you talk to her mother? Old Master Qin's tone was extremely irritable. The principals of Yin University and Beichuan University shrank their heads. They were indeed the family of the top scholar in the country. How arrogant. Then, Mrs. Qin, let's talk. The principal of Yin University smiled stiffly at Mrs. Qin. You're too polite to come here personally. I really don't know what to say. However, Mrs. Qin was very happy and smiled brightly. However, if Principal Xiang and Principal Tan are free, would you be willing to attend my daughter's banquet in 2 days? Banquet? The principal of Yin University was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Of course. It's only right. After all, she's the top scholar in the country. We should celebrate. However, the moment he finished speaking, Principal Su and the rest looked at Mrs. Qin and the rest instinctively. The top scholar in the country? There was actually a living top scholar in their circle? However, Mrs. Qin's smile stiffened. Top scholar? Principal Xiang, are you mistaken? My Jiao Jiao is ranked second in city and only fourth in the country. Of course not. Halfway through his words, the principal of Yin University immediately regained his senses. Wait. Who told you it's student Qin? I'm talking about Bei Yunj. Suddenly, the atmosphere fell into a dead silence. However, the principal of Yin University was still talking nonstop. I really didn't expect that student Pei would actually score 749 points in the college entrance examination, which was unprecedentedly difficult. I heard that it was because you didn't finish your essay, so 1 point was deducted, right? Initially, the grading teachers wanted to deduct 2 or 3 marks, but a senior teacher liked student Pei's essay very much. He couldn't stand the deduction of 2 or 3 marks and sent it to the higher-ups for approval. In the end, only 1 mark was deducted. Gur scored 749 points. Old Master Qin asked incoherently in disbelief. The Beichuan headmaster hesitated. You won't even check the score? Could this be the family of the national champion? He was already so confident. Old Master Qin was speechless. What should he say? Not only did he not check the scores, but he even let his granddaughter get in through the back door. Principal Su was also silent. If he had agreed to let Old Master Qin go through the back door, would he have made a fortune today? It can't be. Surnamed Su. You're from a political school. Yet you're here to snatch the top scorer from us? Beichuan's principal had a wary look on his face. Principal Su was speechless. Speaking of which, you might not believe it, but I just rejected the application of the family of the college entrance examination's top scholar. P.S. Good night, good boys. Chapter 1138. Principal Su was expressionless and his heart was numb. Shut up. Beiyunj? Suddenly, Mrs. Qin seemed to have lost control of her mind. She looked up at the principal of Yun University and denied agitatedly. How is this possible? How can she be first in the national examination? She cheated. She must have cheated. However, these words also attracted the cold eyes and disgust of several university principals. The dignified matriarch of the Qin family actually said such words. As a mother, how could she be so biased? It's not strange for student Pei to be the top scorer of the national examination. After all, this child was also first in the previous joint examination. The principal of Yin University changed his attitude. Beside him, the principal of Beichuan rolled his eyes. After finding out that Beiyunj was seriously ill for the college entrance examination, someone posted on WeChat at night that the heavens were jealous of geniuses. So she's the first in the joint examination. Principal Su was shocked. When he heard this news before he returned to the country, he was also shocked for a long time. After all, the difficulty of that paper far exceeded the college entrance examination level. But in the end, someone actually scored full marks. All of a sudden, Principal Su looked at Old Master Qin with a complicated gaze, and even a little twisted. Good fellow. So this was what this old fox meant when he said that she didn't do well? Because she could score full marks previously, but now she actually lost 1 mark? In the end, Old Master Qin was beaming with joy, wishing he could announce this great news to the world. Beiyunj suddenly said, "Grandpa, I've made an appointment with my classmates. Can I go out to play?" Before Old Master Qin could speak, several principals beside him stopped Beiyunj. "Student Pei, why don't you consider Beichuan? Our Beichuan physics department is an ace major. As long as you're willing, you can enter any professor's laboratory." Beside him, the principal of Yin University was not to be outdone. Don't listen to him. Every major in Yin University is good, and there are many scholarships. Principal Su, who couldn't interrupt, was filled with endless regret. This was the consequence of being stupid back then. If he had found out that Beiyunj was first in the joint examination before he rejected her, he would have brought her to school no matter what. Then, the principal of Yin University suddenly played the emotional card. "Yunj, you know that old Master Bai is the former principal of Yin University. Isn't coming to Yin University like returning to your happy hometown?" Beiyunj. The principal of Beichuan was not to be outdone either. "Yunj, you know that Elder Zhong is my teacher. If you want to come to Beichuan, more than half of the professors here are Elder Zhong's juniors." Mrs. Qin's face turned ashen when she saw the noisy scene. She gritted her teeth and felt like she had been slapped in the face. Mother Qin took a deep breath. She didn't want to stay here for even a second longer. She turned around and left. At this time, Beiyunj's eyelids also twitched. About choosing a school. "I'll listen to my grandfather." After that, Beiyunj left quickly. Only Old Master Qin was left standing there in a daze. However, a few seconds later, the principals and Old Master Qin looked at each other. Half a minute passed. Old Master Qin suddenly became noble and cold. He sat back on the sofa and said, "Old Xiao, you should all go back early." Hearing this, the other 2 card players knew that this was about to start and immediately left. Before the other 3 principals could react, they heard Old Master Qin ask in a reserved manner, "Do all of you know how to play cards?" The principal of Yin University? The principal of Beichuan? Principal Su. Chapter 1139. A few minutes later, the three principals were forced to play cards with Old Master Qin. Old Master Qin said with a smile, emphasizing the last three words. Come, come, come. Don't give in to me just because I have a granddaughter who is the top scholar in the college entrance examination. The principals were speechless. Good fellow. They wanted to play a few rounds seriously, but with this old man saying this, who would be stupid enough to play seriously? They had all lived for more than half their lives, so who wouldn't understand what he meant? The principals, who had been praised for half their lives, could only agree with a smile and seriously lose money to play with him. Especially Principal Su, who was smiling insincerely. This old thing was not letting him go. It was obvious that he wanted to take back the money he had won previously. For the entire afternoon, Old Master Qin had a lot of fun, and only sent the three principals away in the evening. His face was filled with the joy of victory. Principal Xiang, come again next time. Why yes, please wait. There was a stiff smile on Principal Yun's face, but his heart was about to break down. He never wanted to come to this godforsaken place again. After the principals left, Old Master Qin put his hands behind his back and returned to the living room arrogantly. After a while, he went upstairs to change his clothes. About half an hour later, Qin Lang had just returned to the old mansion when he was shocked by Old Master Qin in the living room. What are you wearing? A dragon robe? Qin Lang asked, speechless. Old Master Qin stood in front of the mirror and looked at his bright yellow Tongshan suit, but his tone was indifferent and pretentious. How is it? I'll wear this at the banquet. Qin Lang was speechless. Do you want me to make you a king's crown? Gur isn't here, right? Qin Lang couldn't be bothered with the crazy old Master Qin and sighed. I heard that Qin Yojiao got second in the city. I hope she doesn't know about this. Do you think Gur is like you? She only scored so little for the college entrance examination. Old Master Qin looked at him with disdain. Qin Lang was speechless. How much did Gur score? Qin Lang looked up and asked. 749. Old Master Qin raised his chin with a look of disdain. Unlike you, Yinda on your card. Just now the principals of Yin University, Beichuan, and Guozheng were playing cards with me. Qin Lang. No wonder this old man already thought of himself as an emperor and started to wear dragon robes. After Qin Lang finished despising him in his heart, he quickly went upstairs and secretly posted on his WeChat moments to show off. Bei Yunj had only come out to hide from the principals. After calling Song Yao, she found out that Song Yao had gotten 9th place in the city and would definitely enter Yin University. Computing Institute. Master Pei is awesome. He casually became the top scorer in the country with a high fever, Si Qingyan teased. In the afternoon, the news that the top scholar of the college entrance examination was suffering from a high fever and was 1 point away from getting full marks had spread. Was this the world of the big shots? She should be coming to my faculty, right? Si Qingyan asked excitedly. Bei Yunj didn't even raise her head. Are you going to teach me? Si Qingyan was speechless. What kind of question was this? I haven't thought about it yet. I just want to make the old man happy by taking the college entrance exam. Bei Yunj said slowly. Just don't leave Yin City. You can go anywhere. Si Qingyan was scrolling through the trending topics as usual. Suddenly he saw a novel trending topic and clicked on it. After a while, he laughed coldly. What's wrong? Bei Yunj asked. Si Qingyan seemed to have thought of something and chuckled. Nothing. Today, Qin Yojiao was checking the live stream, and the news of her coming in second place in the city immediately became a trending topic. Chapter 1140. Hashtag Qin Yojiao ranked second in the city for the college entrance examination. Hashtag Qin Yojiao's college entrance examination. Hashtag. Several terms were on the trending searches and reached the top within a while. It was obvious that Qin Yojiao was doing this to embarrass Bei Yunj. She thought that Bei Yunj had really gone to the examination hall with a high fever and would definitely fail this time. Therefore, she wanted to use the opportunity to step on Bei Yunj and embarrass Bei Yunj on the internet. After all, Bei Yunj had brothers like Qin Yu and Qin Lang who were naturally popular, so it was very easy for her to become popular. Besides, Bei Yunj and Qin Youjiao had always had a grudge against each other. The netizens had always liked to watch a good show. Very soon, all of these entries were quickly left with comments. Ah, Jiao Jiao is so awesome. Second in the city. I wouldn't even dare to do this in my dreams. Is this the scene of the fallen princess of a wealthy family fighting back? Sob, I will always love the female lead the most. Jiao Jiao charge. Since she's on the trending searches, let's recommend my sister Jiao Jiao. She's the youngest member of the International Musicians Association, and the second top student in the college entrance examination. It seems like the princess is still a princess. She went to Nili for a year, and returned to the country to get second in the city. I wonder how the real young lady did for the college entrance examination this time. It said that the real young lady had a high fever of 39 degrees during the college entrance examination. It has spread throughout Hengda. She's probably done for this time and will be beaten up by Qin Youjiao. No way, right? Is someone worthy of being compared to my Jiao Jiao? A high fever is not an excuse. If she can't win, she can't win. The netizens left comments quickly, wanting to find out how many marks Bei Yunj had scored. There were also some fans of Qin Lang and Qin Yu who were defending Bei Yunj rationally. After all, sister-in-law's fans could only do this much. At home, Qin Youjiao scrolled through the trending comments and the ridicule on her lips deepened. So what if Bei Yunj returned to the Qin family? Wasn't she still inferior to her? Was she still going to be trampled under her feet? Qin Youjiao lay on the sofa and continued to look at the trending searches. However, from the corner of her eye, she saw two trending terms. Hashtag national top scorer 749 points. Hashtag crying. Qin Youjiao furrowed her eyebrows and felt a little uncomfortable, but she still clicked on this entry. What do you mean by a real big shot? Compared to Qin Youjiao's 716 plus 20 privilege points, this person was the real father. This year's examinees had been beaten to the standard of teaching them how to be human. He did not finish the Chinese literature essay and only lost 1 mark, earning him 149 marks. Full marks for all other subjects. The netizens couldn't help but worship the big boss. The examinees from the same cohort had been rubbed against each other. How could they get 749 points? Is he an immortal? I'm dying of laughter. Qin Youjiao just became a trending topic. Why are you so fat? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass our universe's #1 female lead, Sister Jiao? Doghead. I can't let my mom see this trending topic. I'm already getting beaten up in the same school as the top scorer. Goodbye. Why? She has a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. And she can F*** reach 749? What the F*** taking the exam while sick? So fierce? I can prove that it's true. I'm a Hengda alumnus too. Qin Youjiao is too good at acting. He didn't even take her seriously, but she had to come and provoke the big boss? Hey, what do you mean by that? Why don't I understand? Don't ask. If you ask, she's the real young lady. The passers-by were confused when they saw the few alumni talking in riddles. What did this have to do with the real young lady? But a few minutes later, someone could not sit still, and reposted the official media's post. Qin Yu. She's better than her brother. Yunqing Daily. Come and enter the world of the goddess of studying. She scored 749 points in the hellish college entrance examination. The editor is crying too. Picture. P.S. There's one more chapter. Chapter 1141. Very quickly. Some people were unwilling to fall behind. Crush Qin Lang. Welcome to the 4th university student in our family, who will always be my little Rose. Yun City Daily. Come and enter the world of the goddess of studying. She scored 749 points in the Hell Level College entrance examination. The editor is crying too. Picture. Qin Corporation. Hashtag Queen's Behavior. Hashtag Eldest Young Miss Go. Yun City Daily. Come and enter the world of the goddess of studying. She scored 749 points in the Hell Level College entrance examination. The editor is crying too. Picture. This time the entire internet exploded. What was going on? Qin Yu and Qin Lang only had one younger sister, and Qin Youjiao had left the Qin family long ago. Then the top scholar of the country was Bei Yunji? Is it what I think? The top scholar of the college entrance examination is a real young lady? The person above, be more serious. She's the top scholar of the National College Entrance Examination. Cathead. F*CK, F*CK, so she took the exam while sick and even got first place in the National College Entrance Examination in the end? I'm vomiting from laughing. Sister Jiao Jiao's fan who had a bad mouth just now, come and kowtow to the top scholar's father. Ha 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 ha, isn't this too embarrassing? She can score 749 points even when she's sick. What about Sister Jiao Jiao? How can Sister Jiao Jiao continue acting as the female lead? To be honest, the real young lady satisfies all my fantasies of a rich young lady. She keeps a low profile and doesn't care about any comments from the outside world. She accepts all the scolding and praises. Compared to this, Qin Youjiao is so low. The real young lady actually has a good reputation in school. She looks cold and not to be trifled with, but she's also a human. If it wasn't for the school belle from number 1 high school watching her too closely, I'm willing to be a ghost under senior's skirt. The moment these words fell, it resonated with many people. Every time they wanted to go up and chat up Bei Yunji and ask for her WeChat. Song Yao's smiling face beside her made their scalps turn numb. These days, the school belle was also digested internally. However, seeing this, Qin Youjiao's face had already turned pale. She bit her lip tightly and stared fixedly at the screen. How was that possible? Bei Yunji scored 749 points. She was the first in the country? Jiao Jiao? I bought you a cake you like. Mrs. Qin did not mention Bei Yunji, as she did not want Qin Youjiao. However, Qin Youjiao immediately walked towards Mrs. Qin. Mom, how many marks did Bei Yunji get? She's the national champion. Mrs. Qin panicked, not expecting Qin Youjiao to find out so quickly. However, when Mother Qin thought about how the principals of Beichuan and Yun University had gone to visit old Master Qin because of Bei Yunji, she could only bite the bullet and say, yes. Qin Youjiao thought of the trending topic she had deliberately bought just now. Looking at it now, it was a slap to her face. Instantly, her face turned green and red. She took a step back and couldn't help but shake her head. How could it be impossible? She's clearly a trash. Hearing Qin Youjiao say this about Bei Yunji, Mrs. Qin felt inexplicably stifled. However, she comforted her very quickly. Jiao Jiao, it's not what you think. There are top scorers in the country every year, but you're the youngest member of the International Musicians Association. This is understandable. International Musicians Association. Qin Youjiao muttered before she suddenly regained her senses and remembered something. Bei Yunji had also been to Neely and even became a member of the International Musicians Association because she cheated. However, she had also been reported, although she did not know what happened after. But at least she could use this to make Bei Yunji unable to make a comeback and become a street rat that everyone hated. Mom, you're right. I'm the youngest C-rank member of the International Musicians Association. Qin Youjiao suddenly smirked and turned to go upstairs, having an idea. P.S. Good night. Qin Youjiao couldn't do anything anymore. This time she would be the first to teach her a lesson. Chapter 1142. On this day, Qin Youjiao was almost trembling with anger from this group of people on the internet. However, she did not know who was behind it, and it reached the top of the trending searches. No matter how she tried to find connections, she could not remove it. However, after 2 days, the popularity of this post disappeared quickly. It was obvious that someone was protecting Bei Yunji. This knowledge almost made Qin Youjiao's eyes turn red with jealousy. However, in the past few days, Bei Yunji had been busy with the establishment and expansion of Higgins Corporation's double headquarters, and did not care about anything else. It was also because of Higgins Corporation's double headquarters announcement on the internet that it attracted the attention of many people, and even became a trending topic. 2 days later, because of Shang Yan's handsome interview, Higgins Corporation became famous in the country. After all, Higgins Corporation had launched a series of high-tech products this year, and had directly entered the top 10 global enterprises, and the top 1 in the future business potential rankings. And for such a mega corporation to be able to build a new headquarters in Yincheng, it was indeed very attractive internationally. After all, to a certain extent, this would definitely raise the level of scientific research in the country and drive the economic development of Yincheng. Therefore, many research institutes in country A were already trying to contact the person in charge of Higgins Corporation. However, it was said that the current heir of Higgins Corporation never appeared, and most of the things were handled by President Shang at the headquarters of Higgins Yincheng. Bai Yunj had just arrived when she sized up the international design of this building. It was obvious that it was a foreign company. Her eyebrows moved, but she did not say anything. She pressed down on the brim of her hat and walked in. The people in charge of various companies were already gathered in the hall on the first floor. This scene was shocking. After all, these people were all famous people in the country. Now they were gathered together to think of a way to meet the higher-ups of Higgins Corporation. They all had proposals in their hands, hoping to get the favor of the person in charge. Inadvertently, Bai Yunj even heard a familiar voice that she had not heard for a long time. President Cheng is really amazing to be able to handle his own business at such a young age. Someone praised from the side. Cheng Zihuai, who had always been arrogant among his peers, only smiled modestly. Father said that he wanted me to come out and experience more to learn from all of you. Zihuai, you're too humble. You are also an outstanding talent in the Qingchong Computing Center. Higgins has always paid attention to scientific research, so I'm guessing that the first company they'll choose to work with will be the Cheng Corporation. At this point, everyone looked at Cheng Zihuai with admiration and more or less hostility. However, Cheng Zihuai was already used to such gazes. He still smiled and said, "Our Cheng Corporation really wants to cooperate with Higgins Group, but I also heard that the Qin Corporation is also preparing to develop in the direction of scientific research." However, when he scolded her, his tone was filled with mockery. CEO Qin's appetite is too big. He wants to poke his nose into everything. The Cheng Corporation is a veteran technology company. No matter what aspect they are at, they won't lose. A dark light flashed across Cheng Zihuai's eyes. He was determined to get the opportunity to work with Higgins this time. Thus, he would never allow the Qin clan to become his obstacle. Fortunately, Qin Youjiao had already left the Qin family, so he had nothing to worry about. What's more, Bai Yunj, who made him feel disgusted, was still in the Qin family. Cheng Zihuai couldn't hide the sarcasm on his face. Bai Yunj only had this little trick up her sleeve. Which of her brothers deliberately targeted Yu Jiao? End of chapter. Chapter 1143. However, a burst of noise interrupted Cheng Zihuai's train of thought. Director Kong, I finally get to see you today. Everyone brought their own business plan and quickly walked to Kong Kuoju. In fact, this kind of thing would not be done by the person in charge of the company. But who wouldn't want to leave a good impression on Director Higgins? Initially, Kong Kuoju had come to find Nieyu. However, he did not know what urgent matter Nieyu had and could not find him. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw the person in charge of the company blocking the hall. Is this an invitation for cooperation? Kong Kuoju said lightly, and his eyes were somewhat arrogant. Then come to the second floor with me for a good chat. Hearing this, a trace of relief flashed across Cheng Zihuai's eyes. Indeed, Kong Kuoju was in charge of this business cooperation. Since this was the case, he had an advantage over everyone else. After all, Kong Kuoju's family also had a small company that had been cooperating with the Cheng Corporation. Zihuai, I haven't seen you for a few years. How is Uncle Cheng? Kong Kuoju asked with a smile. Everyone could not help but look at Cheng Zihuai with envy. They did not expect Cheng Zihuai to connect with the people of the Higgins Group so quickly. Cheng Zihuai also smiled. He was determined to win this cooperation. Father is very good. He has always been thinking about you and Uncle Kong. Soon, after everyone had chatted for a while in the conference room on the second floor, a woman suddenly rushed in. Sorry for being late. I am Chiohan from the Qin Corporation. Chiohan smiled apologetically. However, she was not reserved. Or else, she would not have become the only female executive of the Qin Corporation. But soon, the people next to her sneered. What is this? The Qin Corporation only sent a woman over? It seems that Director Qin is very arrogant. Qiu Han said lightly. Director Qin has an important meeting today and can't be here. However, I also believe that Director Qin's sincerity for this cooperation is no less than anyone else's. You make it sound nice. The others looked at Qiu Han with ridicule in their eyes. Someone even asked with a frivolous smile. Or is CEO Qin trying to take us by surprise? Sending a beauty to the door? After she finished speaking, everyone at the scene looked at her with wretched eyes. Qiu Han endured it and sat on the seat on the side. She quietly waited for her appointment. At this time, Cheng Zihuai said calmly, the Qin family has a long reach now. They want to get everything. Zihuai, didn't you and Qin Youjiao? Kong Kuoju raised his eyebrows. Why do you not seem to like the Qin family? Yu Jiao is not the biological daughter of the Qin family. She was chased out of the Qin family a long time ago. As for the real daughter that was sent back, she's very good at handling matters. Cheng Zihuai's tone was filled with disgust, and Kong Kuoju quickly understood. Kong Kuoju smiled and said, so that's how it is. However, this is not a big deal. Leave it to me. On the top floor, this was the first time Nieyu had faced Bei Yunji's high-pressure aura, and he felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? Are you trying to fool me with something like this? Bei Yunji's face was expressionless. She threw the things on the table and suppressed her anger. Nieyu picked up the proposal and flipped through it, but he didn't notice anything wrong. But not long after, Nieyu suddenly remembered something. He borrowed the computer to check the data, and found that there were many problems with the expenditure of the Public Welfare Fund. It was a fake account. Miss Pei, this really isn't my fault. Nieyu panicked. He finally knew why Bei Yunji was angry. Chapter 1144. This time, someone had injected money into the Higgins Group's Public Welfare Fund planning, in order to earn a few hundred million yuan. Nieyu thought that Bei Yunji was just like other people from other groups who wanted to make a public welfare fund to earn a good reputation. Therefore, he didn't care too much about the development of this plan. However, he didn't expect Bei Yunji to come over today and step on Bei Yunji's bottom line repeatedly. Do I care if you did it? Bei Yunji smiled faintly. There was no warmth in his eyes. Every word he said hit Nieyu's heart and made him tremble. What's the difference between a traitor and an idiot? Nieyu's scalp went numb. This proposal and the detailed information at the bottom were very thick. In the past, he had always thought that Bei Yunji was a scientific research genius. However, when it came to the company, he could only rely on Shang Yan. However, reality poured a bucket of cold water on him. Not only did Bei Yunji have an amazing memory, but he was also very familiar with business. He could remember the contents and data analysis of these plans after reading them once, and even see the loopholes. Get rid of all the rotten and useless people in the company. If you don't want to stay here, you can give me the next proposal. I'll also talk to Shang Yan about it. Bei Yunji tried to maintain a calm tone, but it still made Nieyu shiver. Nieyu couldn't help but look at Bei Yunji again. While he was afraid of Bei Yunji, this was the first time he truly recognized this person as the successor of Higgins Group. Yes, Mississippi, Nieyu hurriedly responded. For the next half an hour, Nieyu braced himself and listened to Bei Yunji's correction of the proposal and the data of the historical information. He was scared witless. Nieyu could also see that Bei Yunji was suppressing his anger, so he was afraid that in the next moment, Bei Yunji would come up and strangle him and ask him if he wanted to die. It had to be said that although Bei Yunji was unwilling to take over at first, as long as he took over, he wouldn't allow Higgins Group to live off its previous assets like before. Have you remembered everything I asked you to do? Bei Yunji's voice sounded. Yes, Mississippi. Nieyu's heart was numb. He looked at these plans and realized that none of them had survived Bei Yunji's hands. He suddenly began to miss Boss Shang, who had laughed and asked him if he had a brain. At least it was better than this big boss who would shoot arrows from the back when he was working. Finally, Bei Yunji was ready to leave. She did not ask Nieyu to accompany her downstairs. Nieyu also collapsed on the sofa as if he had just escaped death. Bei Yunji pressed down on the brim of her hat. She was still in a bad mood. She did not expect the people sent by Shang Yan to be so unreliable. However, the next moment the elevator door opened. Bei Yunj followed him out and realized that she had taken the wrong turn. This was the second floor. Bei Yunj snapped out of her daze. Before she left, she glanced at the people who were talking about cooperation not far away. She suddenly felt comforted. The people in this company weren't that bad. There was still hope. With this thought in mind, Bei Yunj was about to go down when she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Oh, Miss Chiu is making a scene here. Miss Qin has also graced us with her presence? Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks. She was sure that this Miss Qin was referring to her. Bei Yunj had just turned her head when she saw Chiu Han looking at a man with a beer belly with an ugly expression. Bei Yunj had been to the Qin Corporation a few times, so she knew Chiu Han. She was a rather gentle but swift woman. Miss Chiu, I said that you can leave with your plans. Kong Kuoju did not hide his deliberate targeting. Chapter 1145. Director Kong, you haven't even seen my proposal. How do you know that Higgins doesn't need to work with us? Chiu Han did not care about being wronged in the workplace, but she was angry at their hostile attitude towards the Qin family. Isn't it obvious enough? I mean, don't waste time. Our corporation will never work with the Qin family. After Kong Kuoju had finished speaking, he suddenly took out a cigarette and smiled while biting it. However, if Miss Chiu didn't want to stay and chat with me because of work, I wouldn't mind. Such malicious humiliation caused the surrounding people to jeer and laugh. Miss Chiu, don't joke around. That's right, men don't like such an ugly expression. Chiu Han suppressed the anger in her heart and could only reveal a smile. The research institute that has strategic cooperation with the Qin family is the top research institute in the country. We have the best team. Suddenly, Kong Kuoju sized Chiu Han up and asked, Miss Chiu, what are your measurements? Instantly, Chiu Han's face flushed red. It was the first time she had been humiliated in public. Suddenly, a slow voice sounded from the side. What, are you planning to get a boob job and a butt? These words caused everyone's smile to freeze and the atmosphere to become cold. Kong Kuoju's face turned green and red. Eldest Missy. Chiu Han did not know why Bei Yunj would appear here. She did not expect that the eldest Missy's first sentence would be so fierce. If she offended Kong Kuoju, she might offend Higgins in the future. Chiu Han panicked for no reason. Just when she wanted to say something to remedy the situation, she heard Bei Yunj's question. Who allowed you to smoke here? Everyone. It was the first time they saw someone being so unreasonable in someone else's company. Chiu Han immediately pulled Bei Yunj behind her. Director Kong, since we can't work out this time, I will find you next time. After she had finished speaking, just when Chiu Han wanted to leave, she was stopped by Kong Kuoju. He asked with a cold smile. What do you mean? You want to leave? Bei Yunj, who was pulled behind Chiu Han, remembered that this mess was hers. The stolen proposal of a few $100 million was also hers. The people who were smoking in the conference room were all her employees. Bei Yunj couldn't help but laugh in anger. What a lousy company. If it weren't for Nancy's stubbornness, she wouldn't have taken over such a rotten company. However, in everyone's ears, Bei Yunj's words became a blatant provocation. The eldest daughter of the Qin family is really something. She doesn't even like Higgins Group. Someone immediately gloated. Director Kong, did you see it clearly? This is the attitude of the Qin family. Chiu Han's face darkened. You, at this moment. Chung Zihuai's tone was also cold as he mocked. Bei Yunj, I advise you not to cause trouble for your brother. The Qin can't afford to offend the Higgins Group. So this is the famous young lady of the Qin family. Kong Kuoju said sarcastically. I didn't expect that in Miss Pei's eyes, our company would become a lousy company. Director Kong. Before Chiu Han could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Kong Kuoju. I said as long as I'm here, Higgins Group will never consider the Qin family. Don't you understand human language? However, after he finished shouting, suddenly, a voice sounded from behind Kong Kuoju. What happened? Kong Kuoju panicked and immediately put out the cigarette. Director Nia. Chapter 1146. As soon as Nia went downstairs, he heard the commotion inside. Kong Kuoju immediately pushed the blame and mocked. CEO Nia, People of the Qin family are causing trouble in front of our company. They are saying that Higgins is a lousy company. Qiu Han's expression changed. CEO Nye, it's not like that. Compared to a small character like Kong Kuoju, Qiu Han knew Nieyu's position in Higgins better. It's that woman next to him. Kong Kuoju immediately pointed at Bei Yunj and said viciously. Initially Nieyu was annoyed, but when he glanced at Bei Yunj, his entire body froze. I don't know where the Qin family got the guts to humiliate our Higgins group. However, I feel that in the future, there is no need for the Qin family to work with us. Kong Kuoju still showed an excited expression and proudly splashed dirty water on the Qin family. Instantly, Nieyu's mind went blank as if there was only a row of words left. He was dead for sure. Clearly, it was not a small matter since it could anger this ancestor to the point of scolding his company. Nieyu's entire body froze as he felt a chill run down his back. He did not know what kind of expression he should have, and did not hear Qiu Han's explanation. Inwardly, he wanted to press that talkative Kong guy with cerebral palsy to the ground and hammer him. He had guts. Of all people, why did he have to provoke the worst one? CEO Nye, let's talk upstairs. Bei Yunj's tone was indiscernible. Nieyu's legs felt weak. Okay. Kong Kuoju, who was still scolding Bei Yunj, paused and did not realize that something was wrong. He watched as Bei Yunj entered the stairs first. Kong Kuoju did not forget to mock Nieyu. CEO Nye, look, Missy of the Qin family has such a bad temper that she dares to walk in front of you. Nieyu took a deep breath and resisted the urge to smash Kong Kuoju's head against the wall. Shut up. And at this moment, Qiu Han chased after them with an anxious expression. Missy Qin, let CEO Qin handle this. No need. I was the one who said he was from a lousy company. I will just apologize. Bei Yunj suppressed his anger and was rather patient with Qiu Han. Qiu Han. When someone apologized, would their face have an expression that said, I'll go upstairs and kill you? Kong Kuoju also sneered recklessly. He was still waiting upstairs to watch a good show. Seeing Kong Kuoju's expression, Nieyu was speechless. Why did he blindly recruit such a brainless thing? Qiu Han watched as the elevator door closed. Although she was anxious, she could only call Qin Luyan. On the top floor. As soon as Kong Kuoju entered the door, he continued to speak passionately. CEO Nye, a company that looks down on our group like this does not deserve to be our partner. Next. Before Kong Kuoju could finish speaking, he saw Bei Yunj sitting at the desk. This was the CEO's office. It was said that it was prepared for the boss that didn't come often. What are you doing? How dare you? Before Kong Kuoju could yell at the top of his lungs, Nieyu suddenly said with difficulty, Miss, please calm down. Kong Kuoju could not react for a moment. What was going on? Nieyu was Shangyan's subordinate and never bowed his head to anyone. Then what was going on now? How did the eldest Missy of the Qin family become the Missy that Nieyu was talking about? This time, it's my fault for not being able to satisfy you in the initial stages of the establishment of the Cloud City headquarters. Nieyu continued. After Kong Kuoju heard this, he seemed to have been struck by lightning. Even if he did not understand, he could more or less guess Bei Yunj's identity. He remembered that the boss of the group seemed to be a woman. P.S. Good night. Chapter 1147. Kong Kuoju looked up suddenly, his pupils constricting. How was this possible? This elder young miss of the Qin family was the boss of Higgins Corporation. Kong Kuoju felt like he was soaked in cold water. It was so cold that he knew he was finished. He had already offended the boss. Nieyu. Bei Yunj licked his lips and chose his words carefully. I feel a little embarrassed at the thought that this lousy company is mine. However, Nieyu started to be afraid. Then who do you want to embarrass today? Bei Yunj played with the fountain pen in his hand and suddenly laughed ambiguously. I couldn't tell that the company's gender discrimination is quite deep-rooted. Why? Can't I eat at the table during the company's higher-ups gatherings in the future? Hearing this, Nieyu's legs almost turned to jelly. No, definitely not. Kong Kuoju shivered and did not dare to look up at Bei Yunj, especially when he thought of his death-seeking words downstairs. I said that as long as I, Kong Kuoju, am around, Higgins will never consider the Qin family. Kong Kwoju could not help but close his eyes. He had already expected his ending. He was really finished. Boss, I was really wrong. I didn't know you were. At the thought of what Cheng Zihuai had said, Kong Kwoju wanted to strangle Cheng Zihuai to death. Did Bei Yunj need to please her brothers and target Qin Youjiao? With this person's status, was it difficult to kill Qin Youjiao? Boss, I listened to slander. It was Cheng Zihuai who said that the Qin family doesn't respect Higgins at all, and is just cheating us of a cooperation opportunity. Boss, I did it for Higgins. Please forgive me this once. Kong Kwoju was still smart and knew how to shift the blame. However, Nieyu already understood Bei Yunj's character. Kong Kwoju, you can leave Higgins now. Nieyu's tone was cold. President Nye, boss Kong Kwoju was unwilling. After looking at Nieyu, he looked at Bei Yunj and a trace of darkness and cold laughter flashed past his eyes. However, after Kong Kwoju left, Bei Yunj asked unhurriedly, who did this charity fund project plan? Nieyu suddenly reacted. His body trembled as he looked in the direction where Kong Kwoju had left. He handed this project to Kong Kwoju. No matter how he thought about it, Kong Kwa had the highest chance of doing something. We have to gather all the evidence tonight. Don't let anyone escape. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Nieyu quickly added, we'll gather all the evidence within 4 hours. What happened after that? Hearing this, Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows slightly and chuckled softly. She said casually, first, send a dishonest person to jail for more than 10 years before someone learns to be obedient. In his previous life, the company that Bei Yunj's grandfather had left to her was in a much better state than the current Higgins group. The higher-ups were also the backbone of the company. However, in the first 3 years of Bei Yunj's reign, he sent 7 of his subordinates to the police station. Those who had originally wanted to work for the Pei family as business spies felt a chill run down their spines. Downstairs, Kong Kwoju's expression was filled with hatred. He wanted nothing more than to destroy Bei Yunj on the spot. However, when he thought about how he had earned a lot of money from Higgins Group's projects over the years, his expression became slightly better. He cursed fiercely. F***ck, you're just a little girl. Do you really think I can't mess with you? Kong Kwoju went to pack his things with a sullen expression. Downstairs, Qiu Han paced back and forth anxiously. However, she saw Nieyu and Bei Yunj coming down together. Chapter 1148. Qiu Han went up and quickly bowed to Nieyu to apologize. Boss Nye, I'm really sorry. My miss. Before she could finish her sentence, a man hurried in from outside the door. His eyes were as handsome as ink, and his black hair was messy and slightly curled, but it looked sexy. His long legs under his black suit pants were especially eye-catching. Qin Lian's voice was cold and slow, but his gaze landed on Bei Yunj. Boss Nye, my guer is young. If you want to settle the score, let's settle it. In the car just now, Qin Lian had heard that Bei Yunj had offended Nieyu. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows. He was quite surprised that Qin Lian would go against Nieyu for his sake. Nieyu was also a little scared. Settle the score? He dared to settle the score with boss's brother? Just now, Bei Yunj's tone was unprecedentedly gentle. Boss Qin, you must be joking. Miss Pei is very good. It's our company's negligence. We've already decided to fire Kong Kwoju as an explanation to your company. What do you think? After Nieyu asked this, Qiu Han's head was filled with question marks. Was he serious? They had fired the founding elder of the Higgins family, just to give the Qin family an explanation? A trace of emotion flashed past Qin Lian's calm eyes before he glanced at Bei Yunj. Let's go home. Bei Yunj looked at Qin Lian, and was silent for a moment. Big brother. Qin Lian's body froze and the indifference in his eyes melted. He only replied in a low voice, okay. Bei Yunj seemed to have remembered something. He suddenly took the document from Qiu Han's hand and stuffed it into Nieyu's hand. Boss Nye, you should have the time to take a look at this cooperation plan, right? Bei Yunj asked casually. Nieyu was speechless. F***ck, the boss was going to take the back door personally. Yes, miss, Nieyu hurriedly replied. This scene was inexplicably terrifying. Boss Nye, what are you afraid of? In the car, Qin Luyan suddenly asked. Gu, you know Niayu? Yes. Bei Yunj did not intend to hide it. Qin Luyan did not ask further. His expression was calm, but his knuckles were faintly white. Today his relationship with Gu had also improved a little. At the very least, Gu had taken the initiative to call him Big Brother today. At the thought of this, Qin Luyan smiled. Bei Yunj did not think about anything else. She only played with her phone and thought about visiting Song Yao's production team in the afternoon. Hua Corporation. Luoxia took a deep breath and turned to look at Huashidu. He complained. Huashidu, this is kidnapping. I invited you to attend my union's banquet. Huashidu was still dealing with official business and did not look up at him. That college entrance exam of yours? You did well. Luoxia couldn't help but ask. Sung Su was even more excited than Huashidu. The top scholar of the college entrance examination. He's ranked first in the country. Huashidu was interrupted and looked up at Sung Su indifferently. So strong? After Luoxia finished speaking, he suddenly reacted. But wasn't she still in Continent K a few days before the college entrance exam? This person is taking the exam naked? So what? Let me tell you, our Miss Pei went for the exam with a high fever. Do you know? The second in the country is 10 points lower than her. What kind of difference is this in the college entrance exam, where 1 point defeats a group of people? Master Pei swept away thousands of people. Sung Su started to ramble incoherently. The man beside him asked slowly. Sung Su, are you done? Sung Su was speechless. Oh no, he had snatched Master Du's chance to show off. Chapter 1149. I didn't expect that girl to be such a top student. After Luoxia found out that Bei Yunj's family background was not bad, and that she had 3 brothers who doted on her, he had always defined Bei Yunj as a useless second-generation heir. Sung Su, go out for a while. After Sung Su left, Huashidu said casually. What do you want to tell me? Yes, Bei Yunj. Are you playing around or serious? Luoxia also knew that it was inappropriate for him to say this, but with Bei Yunj's condition, whether she was playing around or serious, it was quite scary. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the man stopped the pen in his hand and looked at Luoxia calmly. He slowly capped the pen. Do you think I will waste my time looking for someone to play with? This was what Luoxia was most afraid of. Luoxia took a deep breath and turned on his computer again. He gave his investigation and analysis to Huashidu. He said concisely, I have based on some of the background you gave me and Bei Yunj's previous tests. From a professional point of view, she has a big problem. As a brother, I have to remind you that this is a problem. Luoxia looked at Huashidu and did not speak. He said again, most people with serious problems like her have problems with the environment they grew up in. I have never met a patient like her type. If it were not for the new test machine, he would not have been able to determine that there was really a problem with Bei Yunj. In other words, the most difficult thing was not Bei Yunj's condition. It was Bei Yunj's unwillingness to cooperate that he could not detect any problems with her. What are the chances of a complete cure? The man lowered his eyes and was thinking about something. I have never seen her when she has a relapse, so I can't guarantee it for you. And I can't be sure if she has inherited it. However, the biggest problem right now is her compatibility. Luoxia was silent for a moment. Some people have a bidirectional type I disorder. There are 4 peaks. Have you been in contact with her at that time? The man lowered his eyes and remained silent. I still want to give you a piece of advice. Little girls are the most sensitive when they're in love. Maybe you like Bei Yunj very much, but I don't know if you can stand the Bei Yunj who acts up again and again. Luoxia sighed. I'm saying this for your own good and for her own good. In a relationship, it might be a small matter, but for a bipolar type I patient, you never knew what she would think. I once met a young woman who almost killed her husband because of a small matter. However, Huashidu only curled the corners of his lips into an ambiguous smile. He lit the cigarette at his fingertips and casually blew out a beautiful smoke ring. Really? I'm more afraid of what she'll do to me. Luoxia was silent for a long time. Huashidu had already lost completely. Do as you wish. I can help you keep an eye on her, but blood brothers, you have to pay more. Wuxia didn't forget to say. Okay, thanks. Afternoon. Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched as she read the script. Boss, Madam has just finished her liver removal surgery. Does she know her mistake? Madam is no longer breathing. The results show that Madam is 3 months pregnant. Bei Yunji fell into a long silence. She looked at Song Yao. You're acting as the female lead? Song Yao shook her head. I'm acting as the White Lotus, the male lead's first girlfriend. Bei Yunji thought for a long time, and could only praise her. You have a future. Chapter 1150. Song Yao was speechless. Bei Yunji looked at Song Yao, who had no choice but to wear a cotton coat in the summer, and took a fan to fan Song Yao. I really think our sister Yao is quite good. Looking at Song Yao's tense face, Bei Yunji could not help but chuckle and coax her. Song Yao deliberately remained expressionless. You think I'm suitable to play the role of a White Lotus? Bei Yunji suppressed her smile and said sincerely, I think you're suitable to play the role of a first love. Indeed, Song Yao's temperament was too clean, and she looked weak. It made people feel that she was not mainstream, and could not play the role of the female lead. Therefore, she could usually only play the second female lead. The director beside her looked at the unbelievably beautiful girl, and said something with a smile in Song Yao's ear, making Song Yao's ears turn red. The scene was so sweet that it was even more eye-catching than the scene of the male and female leads giving out candies. The director walked over and sighed. I'm Song Yao. Why don't you let your friend act with you to get the feeling? Just now, I asked you to act as a White Lotus who tries to please the male lead, but you acted like you don't love men. Do you think you're worthy of your face? Song Yao was speechless. However, Bei Yunji had her head lowered. What are you laughing at? Song Yao was a little angry, and bumped Bei Yunji's shoulder lightly. Bei Yunji leaned on Song Yao's shoulder, and laughed until her shoulders trembled slightly. Bei Yunji leaned back lazily, her tone sounding quite sad. If it wasn't for those beautiful eyes that were curled up and attractive. Tianting, you're treating me too badly. No one knew if she was complaining or acting coquettishly. This was too ostentatious. The stage supervisor's eyes lit up and they almost howled. What kind of damn beautiful love was this? She hit it, she hit it. Could this be the legendary restless gold tulip, who gave Song Yao a branded watch? But she was too good to Sister Song Yao. She was not impatient with Song Yao at all. Instead, she acted coquettishly. The director glanced at the male and female leads who were acting not far away, then at Bei Yunji, who was leaning against Song Yao's shoulder. His feelings were indescribable. He had lost. Yesterday, when they were filming the kissing scene for the male and female leads, the stage assistant's eyes were also empty and lifeless. But now, the stage assistants, who had stayed up the entire day filming the scenes last night, saw the two of them leaning against each other today, and their eyes started to light up. Bei Yunji respected Song Yao's acting career, and helped her practice her lines. For some reason, Song Yao got into the zone very easily. She was shy, in a daze, and when she was patted on the head, she didn't say anything. She wasn't a disgusting green tea, but a genuine first love. This feeling is too right. The director was a little surprised and couldn't help but glance at Bei Yunji. It had to be said that Bei Yunji's aura was really strong. Although she was a girl, it was inappropriate for her to say such sweet words to a scumbag. On the contrary, it made people want to fall in her hands and crazily want to date her. This face is too confusing. Is it a newcomer? The scriptwriter next to him could not help but sigh. Director, why don't you consider giving them a socialist sisterly relationship? I think it'll explode. The director was speechless. Can King afford it? The watches she gave Song Yao are worth tens of millions. She's that mysterious sugar daddy? The scriptwriter had a look of disbelief and excitement on his face as he said, I've actually hit the mark. Chapter 1151. When they were almost done, the director hurriedly went over and said, Song, didn't you act quite well? Why can't you match Wang Kai? The moment Song Yao thought of Wang Kai, who was the male lead, her eyebrows twitched and she suppressed the nausea in her stomach. Every time they filmed, Wang Kai liked to take advantage of Song Yao when they were acting together. Bei Yunji also saw Song Yao's expression that quickly disappeared, but she did not say anything. Suddenly, A rather handsome man walked over. However, when paired with what he thought was his most handsome expression, he looked a little oily. Director, is the next scene between me and Yao Yao? This nickname was so ambiguous that Bei Yunji's gaze turned cold. She looked up and glanced at Wang Kai calmly. Suddenly she asked, "What is this? The male lead?" Wang Kai's face froze. When he saw Bei Yunji beside Song Yao, his heart was itching. He did not know where Song Yao got such a beautiful friend from. However, before he could show off in front of Bei Yunji, he heard Bei Yunji ask this. Those who did not know better would think that he was a plaything. "Wang Kai, come. I'll bring you to meet Song Yao's sugar daddy, my friend." The director immediately pulled Wang Kai and teased him on purpose. The director was a discerning person. It was obvious that he did not want Wang Kai to have a conflict with Bei Yunji here. He was indirectly telling Wang Kai not to provoke Bei Yunji. Wang Kai could only give a fake smile. "Hello, I'm the male lead of this drama, Wang Kai." Bei Yunji only looked up halfway. Half of her half-smiling eyes seemed to be soaked in the shadows under the tree. Her aura already made people feel unapproachable. "Hello, I don't like others to get close to Miss Song, Bei Yunji." Song Yao was speechless. The director was speechless. The production crew almost went crazy. They could not suppress their excitement. F***ck, this greeting is so good, sister. It's amazing. Wang Kai is too pitiful. His aura was crushed. Where did Song Yao's sugar daddy get it? I want the same design. Are any sisters willing to try it? Wang Kai held it in, and could only give a sullen smile. "Miss Pei, you really know how to joke." Bei Yunji tilted her head back and finished drinking the water. Then, she casually twisted the bottle of mineral water into strips and casually threw them into the trash can. She smiled lazily and said, "Really? I can't take any provocation. I'll send anyone who touches her to the hospital. Why don't you try?" As soon as he finished speaking, the mineral water bottle was smashed into the trash can. It caused everyone to tremble. At this time, the atmosphere around them had turned cold. When everyone saw Bei Yunji's irritation and half-smile in her eyes, they suddenly woke up. The big boss didn't act coquettishly to everyone. Other than Song Yao, perhaps everyone else would only be beaten up. Song Yao tugged at Bei Yunji's clothes from the side, and Bei Yunji's face became slightly warmer. "Don't scare me." Song Yao could not help laughing and stuffed a candy into Bei Yunji's mouth. "Peel it yourself. My hands are dirty." Seeing this, just as everyone thought that the big boss would be angry because Song Yao treated her so casually, Bei Yunji really picked up the lychee-flavored lollipop and peeled it slowly. However, before anyone could be surprised, they saw Bei Yunji call out to someone. Song Yao turned around instinctively, wanting to ask something, but Bei Yunji suddenly stuffed the candy into Song Yao's mouth. She snorted lazily. "Who are you trying to coax? P.S. Good night." Chapter 1152. F***ck. Her defense was broken. Everyone was caught off guard by this handful of candy. Was she happy to spread candy in front of them like this? However, Wang Kai's expression was extremely dark. He was extremely unwilling to let a woman steal his limelight. "Xiao Kai, take it easy." The director patted his shoulder, and Wang Kai could not say anything else. For the entire afternoon, Bei Yunji was watching Song Yao's show. The gaze of death landed on Wang Kai. So much so that Wang Kai did not even dare to touch Song Yao. He was afraid that Bei Yunji would come up and twist his neck like she had twisted the mineral water bottle just now. After filming, Bei Yunji had planned to leave with Song Yao, but she heard that the production team had made a last-minute arrangement. According to Song Yao's explanation, a friend of the director was organizing an esports livestream and had arranged for a professional player to compete with a popular production team. However, on that day, more than half of the actors in the production team who had signed a contract had left. Therefore, Song Yao's director wanted to take advantage of the loopholes and gain popularity for the production team. "It's a good thing. Everyone cheer up and perform well later," the director said excitedly. Bei Yunji stood by the side, pressing her fingers against her thumb as she narrowed her pretty eyes at the director. The director's smile suddenly froze and he felt that his life was threatened. Song Yao's sugar daddy's temper did not seem to be too good. It should be in an hour. After the fight, I'll accompany you to buy desserts. I still have the chocolate I bought for you in my car last time. With that said, the director felt that the danger was gradually disappearing. I don't really eat such sweet things either, Baiyunj said. I really can't eat it. Do me a favor. Song Yao casually found an excuse for Baiyunj. Indeed. When they arrived at the scene, the production crew saw Baiyunj carrying a bag of snacks and walking to the first row happily with her hands in her pockets. The production crew asked hesitantly, Song, this person usually has a bad temper, right? Song Yao smiled. Occasionally, when I don't have time to care about her, she will throw a tantrum. She's usually very easy to coax. The production crew was speechless. Was there something wrong with her mind? Why was she getting more and more worked up? Not long after, the audience arrived and the live broadcast began. As expected, the audience did not see the lead actor of the popular film crew and began to complain. The netizens in the live broadcast room were even more exasperated. It was only when the camera swept past and they saw Song Yao's face that some people were comforted. Is it Song Yao? Was it Song Yao? I'm shocked. When did she join the cast? She seems to be the second female lead from the Forbidden CEO X Love crew next door. The two crews are competing together? Isn't this deliberately creating traffic for lay drama? Song Yao's face is too limited. She can't act as the female lead at all. Forget it. My younger sister is also a goddess. I'll give her a challenge as long as she's not too weak. Are you crazy? Why do you have to invite a bunch of entertainers to compete? Don't try to scam the esports industry. Don't say that. Wang Kai is great at gaming. He used to be a youth trainee in Team RS, but he quit because his family didn't let him. Hearing this, the others were a little expectant. The esports fans were too lazy to turn on their microphones. They only paid attention to the two esports teams behind, hoping to see them PK. However, the camera flashed past and a sharp-eyed veteran esports fan suddenly stared at the girl in the first row wearing a mask and staring at a paper bag. The girl in the first row looks a little familiar. I think I've seen her somewhere before. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.